Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's hybrid city council hearing for the committees on civil service and labor, environmental protection, and housing and buildings. Please silence all electronic devices. Please silence all electronic devices. If you have testimony you wish to submit for the record, you may do so via email at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. We thank you for your cooperation. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Good morning. I am Council Member Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of the New York City Council's Committee on Civil Service and Labor. I would like to acknowledge that today's oversight hearing on Local Law 97, the Green Workforce Pipeline, will be a joint effort with the Committees on Housing and Buildings, chaired by Member Sanchez, and Environmental Protection, chaired by Council Member Gennaro. I would also like to acknowledge that members of the Civil Service and Labor Committee who have joined us so far. Council Member Nurse is here. Council Member Hudson, I think, is on buildings, right? Council Member Kagan and Council Member Holden. Welcome to today's triple joint hearing on the Committee of Civil Service and Labor, Environmental Protection, and Housing and Buildings. Our hearing today focuses on Local Law 97 and the Green Workforce Pipeline. I am Council Member Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of this Civil Service and Labor Committee, and I am excited to join forces with my fellow chairs today to examine how the city will effectively implement and enforce Local Law 97 to cut harmful greenhouse gas emissions and support the development of a burgeoning green workforce that will help building owners bring buildings into compliance. In April 2019, New York City Council passed Local Law 97 as part of a legislative package known as the Climate Mobilization Act. Local Law 97 set emission limits for buildings of 25,000 square feet or larger in order to achieve a 40% carbon reduction by 2030. Approximately 50,000 buildings fall under Local Law 97's requirements, comprising nearly 60% of buildings in New York City. Much has changed in a short amount of time that has passed since Local Law 97 was adopted. The urgency and devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic cast immediate doubts on the city's ability to implement the local law to the full extent envisioned. But amplified calls for racial and environmental justice have reinforced the crucial role that Local Law 97 can and must play in building a future that not only considers but includes communities that suffer under systems that perpetuate climate change and social and economic injustice. Although the first admissions targets are roughly 2 years away, our collective change in circumstances is a good reason to have this hearing now and to check on the readiness of the workforce to do the important work of decarbonizing our city. Most immediately, Local Law 97 is projected to bring upwards of 15,000 or more jobs, and that's only to implement the first round of emission limits by 2024. After that, Local Law 97 is projected to produce well over 100,000 jobs once we've reached the next set of limits in 2030. These jobs potentially include architects, engineers, sustainability consultants, building tradespeople, HVAC professionals, as well as jobs in other industries such as retail, food services, and product manufacturing needed to meet the demand created by a green industry growth. These jobs can provide family-sustaining wages and economic stability. These jobs belong to New York City residents. I believe clean energy economy that incorporates frontline communities of color into the emerging green workforce is critical to a just transition. I am eager to hear the administration's analysis of the law's workforce impacts and how they plan to ensure these jobs are evenly distributed across New York City's communities. Today's hearing is an opportunity for the administration to send a clear message that a robust enforcement of Local Law 97 will lead to the development of qualified workforce ready to facilitate compliance with local law. I would like to thank our committee staff for their hard work in putting together today's hearing, Committee Counsel Nick Connell, Policy Analyst Elizabeth Arts, and also I'd like to thank my staff, Chief of Staff James Burke, and Legislative Director Kiana Diaz. I will now turn it over to Chair Sanchez, Chair of the Housing and Buildings Committee, for her opening statement.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I am Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, Chair of the Committee on Housing and Buildings, and I am pleased to join my colleagues, Chair De La Rosa and forthcoming Chair Gennaro, on this important hearing. I want to thank you all for joining today, and to the administration, I want to thank you for joining twice in the past few months. This is how important this topic is to us. As the most robust climate mobilization law in the nation, Local Law 97 is a critical step in our city's ongoing efforts to combat climate change, and the agencies before us today play a critical role in its successful implementation. In April of this year, the Housing and Buildings Committee and the Environmental Protection Committee held a joint hearing focused on the enforcement of Local Law 97's emissions goals, which did not dive into the job generation and workforce preparation aspects also critical to the implementation of the law. Thus, as my co-chair has already pointed out, the focus of today's hearing is narrower. Local Law 97 presents a tremendous opportunity to develop a green workforce within New York City. This comes at a time when our city is recovering from the global pandemic. And as my colleague mentioned, all New Yorkers, especially New Yorkers belonging to communities of color, stand to benefit from the potential job creation. As was discussed at length throughout the city's preliminary and executive budget hearing, New York City's economic recovery from COVID-19 has actually lagged the nation's, with communities of color, like those in the Bronx, which I represent, and other boroughs, struggling the most, still facing double-digit unemployment numbers. Compliance with Local Law 97 will make New York City into the climate leader that we are striving to be, and can also aid in righting the crises of inequalities facing the city of New York. Furthermore, assisting building owners in meeting Local Law 97 targets will help aid the growth of a green economy. Providing a strict eye on the progress of building retrofits and construction will help provide opportunity for our city's green job market, and in turn prepare our city for a greener future. As such, our city's agencies and officials must be vigilant in making compliance with Local Law 97 as simple as it can be, with the goal of timely completion. In our April hearing on Local Law 97 enforcement, the administration emphasized your full commitment to achieving the emissions goals presented in the law. As Chair De La Rosa mentioned, meeting these emissions goals will bring thousands to hundreds of thousands of new jobs to New York City. And according to David Hsu of MIT, this is up to 15,000 jobs by 2024 and 126,000 jobs by 2030, if planned for accordingly, that is. In the end, the city must do all it can to advance the goals of climate preparedness, creating the jobs, and bolstering a struggling and unequal economy. These goals are not in conflict with one another. Bringing the city's buildings into compliance with our emissions targets can help us meet all of these goals. During the work to retrofit and construct buildings with greening infrastructure will be invaluable in the short-term and in the long-term futures of our city's residents and communities as we continue to combat climate change and recover from the pandemic. Today, I look forward to joining the Civil Service and Labor and Environmental Protection Committees in listening to testimony from the administration and advocates, and to learn more about what our city's agencies and officials are doing and can be doing to prepare our great city for a greener future. And with that, I'll turn it right back to Chair De La Rosa.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. We've been joined by Council Members Menon and Councilmember Carr. And before we proceed to testimony, Committee Counsel Nick Connell will go over some procedure items.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Nick Connell. I'm counsel to the Committee on Civil Service and Labor for the New York City Council. At today's hearing, the administration's representatives will testify first. Their testimony will be followed by council member questions. Then we will proceed to public testimony. I will call on panelists to testify. Please listen for your name to be called. I will periodically announce the names of the next panelists. Witnesses testifying virtually will be on mute until called to testify. Council staff will unmute you when it is your turn. There may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted. Thank you in advance for your patience. I ask all hearing participants to submit written testimony to the following email address, testimony@council.nyc.gov. I will now call on members of the administration to testify. Testimony today will be provided by Commissioner of Environmental Protection and Chief Climate Officer Rohit Agarwal. Additionally, the following members of the administration will be available for questions after testimony is provided. Chief Decarbonization Officer, Department of Citywide Administrative Services, Anthony Fiore. Chief Sustainability Officer, Department of Buildings, Gina Bokra. And Director of Special Projects, Economic Development Corporation, Jamie Horton. I will now administer the oath. I will call on each of you individually for a response. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before these committees and to respond honestly to council member questions? Commissioner Agarwal? Chief Decarbonization Officer Anthony Fiore?
I do.
Chief Sustainability Officer Gina Bokra? Director of Special Projects Jamie Horton? Thank you, Commissioner Agarwal. You may begin when ready.
Oh, simple fix, thank you. I'd like to thank Chairs De La Rosa, Sanchez, and Gennaro, and the members of the Civil Service and Labor, Housing and Buildings, and Environmental Protection Committees for the opportunity to testify today. I am, as always, excited to work with you all to implement this critical climate legislation. I'd also like to thank my colleagues who've already been introduced by the committee counsel, Gina Bokra, Jamie Horton, and Anthony Fiore, who is joining remotely. It is, as the two chairs have mentioned, only 2 months since I last testified before the council on the topic of Local Law 97. I'd like to say at the outset that we are proceeding apace along precisely the lines I described at that time. We are focusing on the fact that Local Law 97 was titled the Climate Mobilization Act. Our goal is to get every covered building mobilized to reduce emissions and reach their targets under the law. It is through that mobilization that jobs are being created and more will be. Our first step to do that is the internal work necessary to get the rules written. At the same time, we are working to spread the word that the Adams administration fully intends to implement Local Law 97 and that all covered buildings need to get mobilized if they are not already. Also, as I mentioned in April, we are particularly focused right now on the buildings that will need to take action for the 2024 compliance period. Happily, this is a relatively small group of buildings, probably fewer than 3,000. The much more aggressive limits established for 2030 will be the major source of job creation from Local Law 97. For that much larger group of buildings, early mobilization will be critical, which is entirely consistent with the way we plan to implement this law. Mayor Adams and this administration have recognized the job creation potential of Local Law 97 from the beginning. This is why we have made the green economy a central pillar of our economic development strategy, as laid out in Rebuild, Renew, Reinvent, a blueprint for New York City's economic recovery. Decarbonizing our private buildings and making them more energy efficient will help to drive our economic recovery in an inclusive way. Energy efficiency creates 20 jobs per $1 million of investment each year. Today, 61,000 people are employed in the energy efficiency industry across all 5 boroughs, which accounts for most energy employment in the city, 43% we estimate. The blueprint calls for accelerating the electrification of our buildings and transportation systems, driving the building and energy efficiency and retrofit markets, and scaling emerging models to electrify trucking and commercial fleets. A critical part of implementing Local Law 97 and ensuring that the associated economic benefits are distributed to all New Yorkers is why the Blueprint for Economic Recovery calls for an interagency working group to coordinate with industry on a green jobs workforce effort. In addition to the interagency working group, the city will undertake a study to understand the size, impact, and opportunities of the green economy in the short and long terms, with a focus on workforce development and how to get New Yorkers into these jobs. All of this work will build on several green industry and green jobs initiatives already underway across the city. I'll highlight just a few. The recently announced $191 million investment in offshore wind, which we expect to create over 13,000 jobs and generate $1.3 billion in annual investment. There are requirements that 40% of the city's investment be directed towards women, minorities, and EJ communities. EDC is leading this work, which will create an offshore wind hub at the city-owned South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, as well as investments citywide in workforce and research and innovation in the offshore wind industry. In addition, the city secured a $5 million investment from project partner Equinor to ensure low-income New Yorkers and communities of color can participate in the industry. In addition to assisting building stakeholders with energy improvement projects, the NYC Accelerator offers the NYC Accelerator Learning as a free training resource for NYC residents. The Learning Center currently has a catalog of 30-plus courses, which include trainings on new technologies, building practices, and soft skill trainings for building professionals working on both new and existing buildings. The Accelerator also runs an internship program, which provides CUNY students with 35 hours of training on energy efficiency basics before pairing them with a host organization and providing mentorship along the way. EDC's PropTech piloting program is identifying leading buildings and real estate technologies to deploy on the over 490 million square feet of city-owned real estate across DCAS, NYCHA, and HPD. This program will pilot the most advanced technologies that have usually been reserved for Class A office space on city properties serving everyday New Yorkers. In addition to identifying opportunities to improve building efficiency and operations, these pilots are also designed to offer workforce training opportunities for low-income New Yorkers and NYCHA residents. The New York City Green Jobs Corps includes 4 city-funded pre-apprenticeship training programs that link graduates to interviews with the building and construction trade unions. Targeted recruitment for these programs in high-need neighborhoods served by the SBS Workforce One centers ensures that there is a steady stream of low-income workers entering the trades as apprentices. The programs that make up the NYC Green Jobs Corps also do tremendous work to recruit, train, and place women, returning citizens, and students from CTA High School in the trades. These apprenticeship programs provide workers paid on-the-job and in-classroom training for 3 to 5 years. The extensive benefits and prevailing wages earned through a union career provide a clear path towards economic security for the hardest-hit New Yorkers. Union jobs created by Local Law 97 increase the need for union workers throughout the city and the need for more apprenticeship openings for low-income New Yorkers trained through the Corps. In addition to these larger initiatives, there are numerous campaigns across city agencies to grow the green economy and get New Yorkers connected to these jobs. I am happy for my team to provide follow-up information. As I reported 2 months ago, the city is leading by example in the efforts to reduce carbon emissions and associated criteria pollutants. To date, the city has invested roughly $900 million in reducing energy use and emissions from government operations. This has resulted in the reduction of 2.9 million MMBTUs of energy use, or the equivalent of 200,000 New York City residences, and a 27% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. This work has created or retained 4,000 good-paying jobs. While much work has been completed, much work remains to be done. It is expected that the city will need to nearly triple the amount of work it has historically completed on average each year. As I mentioned in April, we are seriously focused on achieving the city's 2025 target of a 40% reduction over 2005, but it is a significant challenge, and there continues to be a high level of risk to our achievement of that target. It is not for lack of trying. This administration has taken action in its first 100 days to unbottle this work. We are adding nearly 200 employees to our carbon reduction efforts across city agencies to help identify additional opportunities and manage the work. Since I last testified, we have accelerated the addition of staff at key authorizing agencies, including the Office of Management and Budget, the Law Department, and the Mayor's Office of Contracts, to speed procurement and project delivery. As I mentioned last time, the administration made a major push with the state legislature to extend design-build project delivery authority to projects intended to reduce energy and greenhouse gas emissions. Unfortunately, we found out only after my testimony that the law the state legislature passed only covered projects above $10 million. So we are working to see how much of our local law compliance work can qualify. We are optimistic that Local Law 97 compliance projects will also benefit from work that the administration is undertaking broadly to accelerate city capital projects, such as the task force that First Deputy Mayor Lorraine Grillo is leading, along with the participation of the controller, the private sector, union leaders, and multiple agencies. As you know, the Adams administration also prioritized making the case to the New York State Public Service Commission for its approval of the 2 Tier 4 projects that will deliver clean and renewable energy from upstate New York and Canada into New York City. When it approved those projects, several commissioners noted that New York City's commitment to purchase that electricity was critical to making those projects work. The city has worked to ensure that its own greening efforts create good jobs. We have partnered with the City University of New York to create an Energy Management Institute to upskill city workers in the latest energy efficiency and clean energy technologies and best management practices in building operations and maintenance. To date, more than 1,700 employees across 40 different agencies have participated in these training opportunities, and over 1,100 professional certifications have been awarded. The city has also taken action to train the next generation of green workforce. DCAS and the Department of Education have partnered to provide energy management and sustainability training to more than 1,000 K-12 teachers, reaching over 2,000 students. In addition, a solar training curriculum has been developed for the career and technical education schools. This prepares students matriculating out of CTE to directly enter the solar installation and maintenance industries. 1,500 students have participated in that training. Finally, DCAS and DOC's reentry program, the Department of Corrections reentry program, the division, have partnered to develop a solar installation and maintenance training class for incarcerated individuals on Rikers Island. Since 2018, 180 individuals were trained in the basics of renewable energy, electrical theory, and solar PV technology and design. In partnership with SBS, Solar One, the Fortune Society, and local solar developers and unions, the program has supported employment of more than 20 individuals into the construction, facilities management, and energy efficiency industries. At the hearing last April, I spoke in detail about the Adams administration's approach to implementing Local Law 97 and our commitment to ensuring that the law is enforced in a way to drive retrofits and create jobs. We are still working through the details of what this will look like, so I do not have much more to say on this topic than I did in April. All of the rules that will govern compliance, including a definition of what we believe should constitute a good faith effort, will be subject to public notice and comment under the CAFA rulemaking process. I am looking forward to updating these committees as soon as we have details to share, and of course, both you and all New Yorkers will have the opportunity to provide input during the rulemaking. As I've expressed, we are focusing on the mobilization in the Climate Mobilization Act. We want building owners to act as soon as they can to decarbonize and retrofit their buildings to operate more efficiently. Mobilizing building owners to reduce greenhouse gas emissions inherently means that we are also mobilizing the people who work on buildings. We want to see these jobs be good paying and local to the greatest extent possible. For the 2024 compliance period, we expect that approximately 2,700 buildings will need to make changes to their buildings to comply with the law. Some of these will be relatively minor operation and maintenance updates, and some will require retrofits. We expect that many more building owners will need to retrofit their buildings to comply with the 2030 building emissions limits. This is when we will likely see the workforce expand to meet that need. In conclusion, we are excited about the opportunity that decarbonizing our private buildings and making them more energy efficient provides for an inclusive economic recovery. Additionally, the Adams administration is committed to achieving the greenhouse gas emissions limits established in Local Law 97. The climate fight is about mobilization, and we know that workers will be leading the charge. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We've been joined by Chair Gennaro, as well as Councilmember Bottcher, and Councilmember Caban has joined us virtually.
And I'd just like to say on the record that I waive my opportunity to make an opening statement. I'm sorry for being 5 minutes late.
Thank you, Chair. We've also been joined by Councilmember Dinowitz. And I think that's it. Okay, great. So we'll start with some questions here. Thank you again for your testimony. According to the 2019 retrofit market analysis conducted by MIT, Local Law 97 has the potential to create 15,000 jobs by 2024, an additional 126 jobs by 2030 in New York City. Does the administration have an estimate or model of the jobs needed to bring the city's buildings into compliance?
I'll turn this question over to Jamie, but before I do, I'd just like to reiterate what I said in my testimony, which is that we're very eager to ensure that not only Local Law 97, but also the entire climate agenda creates jobs, and that we cannot create jobs absent mobilization. And so that governs all of our thinking. But Jamie.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. So the city hasn't done, to this point, an actual estimate or model, but that's, the commissioner had mentioned that we are commissioning a study soon to look at exactly that question. We have, EDC specifically has looked at the economic and job impacts of DCAS's work, which is significant, and so based on our research with the $4 billion retrofit program that is underway, so I believe the jobs numbers quoted were to this point, but looking at, in total, we're looking at 7,000 new jobs associated just with that work, and then an additional 4,000 indirect jobs. And so obviously the city's private buildings are a much larger stock than just city-owned. So we look at, look for that to be larger in the.
So you're pointing to the 3,000 initial jobs, retrofits that you're projecting, okay. Currently, is the administration seeing an increase in economic activity and job creation as a result already?
So we haven't seen, we haven't seen that specifically, but I think that's exactly what we're looking at, both with this study and with the interagency workforce, with the interagency working group that the commissioner referenced. We expect a lot of this work to be generated by the much larger amount of buildings that are going to need to come in compliance with the 2030 emissions limits, rather than this initial much smaller group of 2024.
And Chair, if I could, I'll just reiterate this observation that when we're talking about the roughly 3,000 buildings that have to do work for the initial compliance period, 3,000 buildings among 1 million buildings in New York City, an uptick in those buildings is not actually going to create a change that's particularly visible, especially given that so much of that work is really being done by existing contractors, right? It's electricians, it's plumbers, it's the general contractors. I think as we see the mobilization getting towards the 2030, that's really when you start to see pressure, because that should be an outsized proportion to the normal course of work that you've seen across the city.
Great, thank you. And my next questions are related to the industries. Which industries do you project will experience job growth due to this law, and what are the projected wages and benefits for jobs created by Local Law 97?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that we're really focused on. And so we expect it to be in line with what we've seen already in terms of a lot of the jobs being in the energy efficiency market. And so the state has actually done quite a bit of research on this already that looks statewide. And by far the majority are in these energy efficiency jobs. So that's HVAC, installation, maintenance, servicing, things like that, with a smaller percentage being in clean energy generation, so solar, wind, things like that. And so this is something that we're looking at digging into with this coming study, and we'd be very happy to provide updates as that gets going. And to your second question, a big part of that will also be what are the wages associated with these jobs, because it's not going to be the same across the industries.
Mm-hmm. Does the administration plan to put forth information on what those potential jobs could be, and some wage scales for some of those jobs? That'll definitely be a part of the study, and we're really looking at the kind of workforce first. And so looking at, there's going to be occupations that go across these different industries. It shouldn't just be, if you're trained in solar, you can only get a job in solar installation if some of those skills are transferable. And so that's going to be a big part of what we're looking at. Great. And then my next two questions are around the creation of union jobs. Mm-hmm. Can you give us sort of a vision into what local law does for union jobs, and does it encourage the creation of union jobs?
So I think echoing the commissioner's point.
Well, actually, if I could, I'll just point out the law does not establish anything that directs jobs, the jobs related to compliance are not shaped by the law. I think the main way that Local Law 97 does create union jobs, which we strongly expect it to, is because it is skewed towards the largest buildings in the city. A disproportionate number of those are, of course, union buildings, right? And so that is where we will see the union jobs being created, is whether it's in commercial, which is even more heavily union, or the residential buildings, which comprise the majority of covered buildings. That's where you will see union jobs being created.
Thank you for clarifying that. And now, my next question, I know that in the testimony, time and time again, you all spoke about CUNY, which I think is a wonderful piece of this, that CUNY is a strong partner in training. But what can the city do to ensure that the jobs created will be evenly distributed to low-income communities of color? As you know, environmental justice communities like the ones some of us here represent are vastly communities of color that also have high unemployment rates. And so these things are interconnected, and we want to know how can we ensure that the jobs will reach those people who most need them?
Thank you. Yeah, and that's an excellent point, and that's exactly what our kind of policy focus is as we actually shape these programs. And so the Economic Recovery Blueprint, this interagency workforce that I keep referring to, it does call for specifically not just working with CUNY, but also going further and working with K through 12 institutions, because we know that that's kind of the start of actually getting people work ready. And we're going to look to some of the the precedent green workforce programs that we already have in place. And so a couple examples, I know that Rit highlighted the offshore wind program that EDC runs, I think is a really great example where we're sure that 40% of the investment there goes towards environmental justice communities and MWBE firms. And another great one is the city's Green Job Corps program. So that was established in 2017 and is still ongoing and recruits through SBS 1 workforce centers, which are cited in these communities that really that are hardest hit. And so those are great examples. And then one of the things that we're exploring right now, so this is an EDC specific program, and I think speaks to the importance of not just getting folks into jobs, but also having them build businesses, is the importance of MWBE contractors participating in this work. And so one of the things that we're looking at is EDC has our Construct NYC program, which essentially does capacity building for MWBE firms so that they can better access our capital contracts. We're looking at expanding that, right, because our capital portfolio is only so big. We're looking at expanding that to DCAS as well, and so we're exploring to see if that's a possibility so that MWBE firms are really ready to get these contracts, right? Because it's enough to say that we want to hit the goal, but if the firms aren't prepared to actually get them, then that's a different challenge.
Yeah. I'm also curious to know about branding and marketing around the jobs, right? I know that you all know, but language access is something that is super important. Meeting people's literacy needs where they are is super important. Yeah. So making sure that as we look to use the Workforce One centers, which in my personal opinion are underutilized, I have one in my own community, it's important to sort of expand out the level of engagement that we have in communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my last question before I turn it back over to Chair Gennaro is, would the city consider creating a job tracking dashboard associated with jobs produced by Local Law 97? It would be important for us to have that transparency as we go back and forth as we hit the milestones in the law.
Yeah, I think it's really important to see how the industry grows and where those jobs are going. I think there is a difficulty with ascribing any particular job to Local Law 97. It's really part of the bigger industry that's going to be growing. But I think we're happy to provide regular updates on kind of the progress across the different occupations and industries as we go forward.
And if I could, Chair De La Rosa, I think it's really important for us not to lose sight of the fact that Local Law 97 is one component,
Yes.
right? And while this law has been described as New York City's Green New Deal, it's actually incomplete, right, in that sense. We are working on a number of initiatives around vehicle electrification, around the electrification and the reduction of the city's own fleet. There are any number of things about the entire transition towards climate preparedness that will create jobs, and none of that even considers the work that's going to be created by resilience, right? And so we do very much see it as part of a much larger picture, and I would encourage us to think about the green workforce as a whole rather than focusing only on the Local Law 97 component of it.
Yes, I agree with you, and I invite you all to create trackers for all of those things. I think it's important for us to have that information on our fingertips so that we can have oversight over it. But I do want to say that it's important with Local Law 97 because if we wait until the last minute to begin to prepare this workforce before we hit these targets, we're going to be inadequately prepared to meet the more aggressive targets of 2030. And so I just wanted to bring us back to that point. But I want to pass it over to Chair Gennaro and recognize that we've been joined by Councilmember Ressler as well.
Thank you, Chair De La Rosa. I don't have any questions for the panel at this time. I'm in ongoing communication. We actually have a little working group going with Climate Jobs New York. This will provide more opportunity for members of the committee to ask questions. I reserve my right to come back. And at the outset of the hearing, because I was not here, and these people have probably already been recognized, but I feel compelled as a chair of the Committee on Environmental Protection to do so. I'm recognizing, and I thank them for the presence today, Council Members Menon, Holden, Ressler, Nurse, and Kagan. And with that, I reserve my right to come back. I don't have any questions at this moment. Thank you to the panel. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa.
Thank you, Chair Gennaro. I want to pass it on to Chair Sanchez for some questions.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Councilmember Gennaro. Good to see you. So my first question is about OBEEP. So, of course, as you know, during the April hearing and then during budget hearings, the council called on more funding, additional funding for positions within OBEEP. And so this is, of course, to ensure that the complexity of Local Law 97 has enough staff resources to be fully implemented as mandated. So I understand that we now have enough for 11 positions within OBEEP, an increase from 6 positions previously. Could you give us a breakdown of what the staffing looks like within OBEEP now, or what the plan for staffing looks like? And then I'll proceed from there.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Sanchez. I'll ask Gina to give you the details, but actually before I do, I'd like to make the observation that there's been a tremendous amount of focus on OBEEP and Gina's particular staff. But as I noted earlier, getting the work of implementing this law done goes much beyond that, right? There's a number of people beyond OBEEP at the Department of Buildings that are deeply involved. The Law Department, OMB, MOCEJ. I spend a good deal of my own time on this. So while it is critical to make sure that we fully staff the particular office, the implementation of this law is not bounded just by that particular office. But Gina, please.
Thank you, Councilmember. So we are fairly confident that OBEEP has the resources that it needs now with the addition of these new staff members. Our original staff consisted of technical resources, architects, engineers, project management, an attorney, analytics expert to help us better understand the universe of buildings that we're working with. We will be focusing now on transitioning from our efforts with the advisory board and the working groups to heavily, concentrated on efforts to promulgate the rules that will support Local Law 97 and help inform building owners about the choices they need to be making in the future. Additional rules will be promulgated later this year, and that will continue into next year to bring more clarity to this process. And as we continue to monitor our needs at Department of Buildings. We're working, as our commissioner here has shared with you, with MOCEJ very closely, with the law department, with Oath, with many others across the city to make sure we successfully implement Local Law 97. We will definitely update you should our needs change, but I want to assure you that from the time that Local Law 97 passed, our conversation with OMB has been about ramping up our staff over time incrementally as those needs grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. But my question is not about needing more money, since that is a conversation for a later time. But thank you for explaining some of the roles within OBEEP. So whether it's OBEEP or OMB Law Department, MOCEJ, Oath, all of the entities that you mentioned, where can the council look to positions that are focused on workforce development and job training?
So we're really focused at Department of Buildings on education and outreach to building owners in the industry, but we expect that this effort will have a positive effect in workforce development. So every position in the office has the potential to impact workforce development, since full, robust implementation of Local Law 97 is going to mean new clean energy jobs for New Yorkers.
And
And
if,
that-
oh, go ahead.
That being said, we definitely value the input of council members. We look forward to working with you to better understand the needs of your own districts. And we're very happy to discuss with you what we can do together to bring more clean jobs to your constituents.
But I was just going to add that as we had said, and as Jamie had pointed out, the job or the positions within city government that are focused on workforce development for this really wouldn't be appropriate at DOB. That's not the right place for it. It is through the organizations that are focused on workforce development and economic development. And as I described, we have a number of those in the right places, we believe.
Great. And so thinking, just listening to your testimony, and you really expounded upon the many different investments that the city is making, both in beyond Local Law 97 and including Local Law 97, greening the city's infrastructure, and programs to build up the workforce that we have today. So New York City Accelerator, EDC's PropTech piloting program, Green Jobs Corps. Is there sort of a central monitoring of what these different programs are creating, or how they are helping us to expand the green workforce in New York City?
I think that's very much what the interagency task force that EDC is setting up will be doing.
Exactly. I think you hit on a really great point, which is it's very fragmented right now, and part of bringing these groups together is, inventorying and actually seeing what the impact can be and how we can really complement one another, rather than just, have a very diffuse effect.
Great, thank you so much. And just one more question for this round. You spoke with, you answered Chair De La Rosa's questions about the city's efforts to green our own infrastructure. So we understand that it's not all DCAS buildings, not all NYCHA buildings, it's a portfolio of buildings within. Can you break down for us so that we can gain an understanding of how much job creation, or perhaps rededication, since we're using existing resources in many cases, how many of the city's buildings are going to be needing to go into compliance by 2024 versus 2030?
Yes, let me ask Anthony Fiore, who leads the city's compliance effort, to take that.
Good morning, and thank you for the question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Local Law 97 applies to the government portfolio as its operations in totality. In the work that we've done, we've already touched more than 2,000 buildings, and we'll continue to implement, these energy efficiency measures like HVAC upgrades and boiler repairs, chillers, steam traps, lighting, and building controls in all of our buildings to achieve the emission reductions that are necessary. I will point out that, we do this work with an eye towards environmental justice. 65% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we've reduced to date have been in EJ communities, and I think even more important, 72% of the PM 2.5 reductions that we've achieved, which lead to poor health outcomes, have been reduced in EJ communities. So we definitely have an eye towards where these investments are being made, and they'll continue to be made in that way.
And so thank you so much, Mr. Fiore. And for those 2,000 buildings that have already been touched by Local Law 97 related improvements, is there any quantification that you can provide about jobs either created or repurposed for these retrofits or improvements? And how many of those have been for, historically underrepresented communities?
So as the commissioner mentioned in his testimony, the work that we've done to date has created or retained approximately 4,000 jobs. And the work that we need to do between now and 2030 is expected to create another 11,000 jobs. I don't have the numbers on where those jobs are coming from, whether they're in from marginalized communities or not. But also, as the commissioner mentioned, we have been developing programs with the Department of Education and also the Department of Corrections to try to get at some of those populations through the CTE program with the Department of Education, as well as the reentry program with the Department of Corrections.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. I will now call on council members to ask questions in the order in which they have raised their hands. Council members, please keep your questions to 5 minutes. First, we'll hear from Council Member Caban, followed by Council Member Nurse. And I also want to recognize that we've been joined by Council Members Joseph and Aviles. And if any other members want to get on the list, please let us know. Oh, and Council Member Hanif has joined us.
Thank you very much to all of the chairs and my colleagues, and thanks for the folks here testifying today. I wanted to just dive right in and ask some questions about the renewable energy credits. Specifically, building owners can buy RECs from renewable energy projects that are interconnected into the city's grid instead of upgrading their buildings. And I'm concerned that this may become a major loophole, because if landlords buy RECs instead of cleaning up their buildings, they're not creating jobs or reducing air pollution in the city. And so how many RECs will be available for purchase?
Thank you, Council Member. Let me start by pointing out that there is going to be rulemaking going on. There is, as is prescribed by the law, an advisory board process going on. And so at the appropriate time, there will be rules promulgated. There will be the opportunity for the public to comment on them. I will point out that we know that energy use reduction must be a large component of decarbonization. We realize there has to be a balance between increased use of electricity from the beneficial electrification of building heating and hot water and energy efficiency. And while we have not finalized those rules and are still evaluating the input of the working group members and the advisory board, we have taken the position for city government operations that RECs can and should only be used for electrical consumption, and only RECs associated with new transmission into the city. Gina, anything we should add there? Okay.
And so, I guess, and I want to kind of continue with this line of questioning a little bit, and I know that it may be a little tougher to get some concrete answers, considering you said that this is something that still is in the process of being figured out. But based on the parameters that you just outlined, to the degree that you can answer, like, is it conceivable that there would be so many RECs available for purchase that owners might not need to upgrade their buildings?
So what we expect in terms of the availability of RECs, we don't expect a ton to be available, certainly for the first years of the first compliance period. right? The market for local law 97 eligible RECs right now is tiny. At some point, probably in 2027, 2028, the Tier 4 projects will come online, and that will create a significant increase. However, we do not expect the Tier 4 projects to be sufficient so that all buildings that are covered in 2030 by the law would be able to comply using the RECs from those projects. So right now, I don't think it's realistic to believe that the supply of RECs would allow the kind of wholesale use of RECs to displace any other kind of compliance, even if the rules were to be completely generous, right? So I think that's an important point, that there is a limit on the number of RECs that will be available. And of course, we should point out that we should not be opposed to the kinds of projects that RECs can and should create. We need more renewable power into the city. That's why the city was firmly in support of the 2 Tier 4 projects. We believe that that is a component of the way Local Law 97 was envisioned. And we believe that the next set, after these 2 Tier 4 projects, there is going to be a need for further renewable energy development into the city. The good news is many of those opportunities are going to be much more focused on in-city opportunities related to offshore wind and local repowerings.
So what I'm hearing in your answer is that it's couched in the language of expectations and beliefs. And so also what I would love to hear more concretely on is the fact that the administration has wide authority to limit or authorize REC use under the law. And so what's the city doing to ensure that REC use is limited and it's not the primary method for owners to comply with the law? Because we can talk in expectations, we can talk in desirables, but what are the concrete things that the administration is doing to ensure that this is limited?
Well, Council Member, the main thing is, as is directed by the law, the city is talking about this topic with the advisory board, based on the advisory board, and with our own perspective, of course. The city does not have to follow the recommendations of the advisory board. We are developing a set of rules that will govern the use of RECs as well as the overall compliance approach to Local Law 97 that will go through CAPA. And because those rules are governed by CAPA and are currently under development, it's not appropriate for me to say anything more.
Time expired.
And may I ask just one final question?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. And so advocacy groups are recommending that RECs be limited to 10% of the pollution produced by a building and limiting RECs to cover only electrical use. I know that you mentioned that at that portion of that latter piece. But I'd love to know what the administration thinks about limiting RECs that way, 10% and to cover only electrical use. What's the administration's position or thinking on that?
Well, first of all, I'll say, once again, for the near term, we do not expect a significant availability of RECs to shape the 2024 compliance period. We have funded a study to examine the 2030 compliance limits and how RECs might impact owners' later compliance choices. And unfortunately, Council Member, because this is a topic that will be very shortly addressed through the rulemaking process, I can't say anything more than, once again, to point out that where the administration has discretion, which is on adopting its own approach to government operations decarbonization, we are taking the position that RECs can only be used to cover electrical consumption and only RECs associated with new transmission into the city.
Thank you, and Chair, thank you for the additional time.
Thank you. We have Councilmember Nurse, followed by Councilmember Menon.
Thank you, chairs. I just have a few, two questions on workforce. So based on the testimony you gave and some of the other stuff in the committee report, I see there's four programs where they're city funded, where you all are recruiting and training for these new green jobs. And I'm just curious what additional partners you have identified beyond those initial programs in terms of other organizations that do green training or energy efficiency training that maybe aren't in that specific grouping?
Yeah, so the list that the commissioner read from is just a selection.
Okay.
And so it's a much wider net. There's advocacy groups, there's groups like Solar One that do actual training. And so as part of this interagency group and as part of the study that we're talking about, we will cast a much wider net. And actually just last Friday, the Deputy Mayor for Strategic Initiatives held kind of a working group on this exact topic, and some of my EDC colleagues joined. And it was a mix of city reps as well as these groups that we're talking about. And so I don't have the list of attendees. I can follow up with that. But I think that can give you a sense of the folks that are in the space now. And a big thing we'll be looking at, if these groups are at capacity, where are the places that the city needs to provide more support so that we're not falling short of the workforce needs to implement the work.
That's great. And if the chairs are okay with it, I'd love to request that list of those partners that you're considering in your broader network. One, because I feel like these programs have been in existence for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through a pre-apprenticeship program and then additionally did like energy efficiency with an organization in the Bronx, and so many people went through that program. And so I'm just curious about the assessment of the existing work, skilled and trained number of New Yorkers versus who was actually captured in a formal job or organization in this already.
Right.
So additionally, I have a question in terms of, are these trainings that are happening, are these certificate programs, even like the CUNY one, is this something, if someone goes through this and gets recruited and trained, they do the 30 hours, I know there's differences between the CUNY one and some of the others, can they then take this through some kind of certification to say, I'm now qualified to work in this type of contracting organization or company?
That is a great question. I do not have the answer, but I'm happy to follow up with some of my colleagues at EDC as well as at Office of Workforce Development to get you the answers to that, because that's a very
It would just be great so that, as people, all of these programs are so diverse, is there some kind of common certification that says, like, I'm trained for this particular type of work, especially as it relates to Local Law 97, or something that indicates to a contractor, like, oh, I don't need to spend too much time, this person's ready to go. Okay, so, and then I'm just curious if you have set up, because so much happens when people say, oh, all these jobs are gonna happen, all these jobs are gonna happen, all this money goes. If there's something already set up to track folks who go through these programs, and then whether or not they actually end up having employment, sustained employment, or at least one job interaction in the sector that this whole thing is intended for.
Right. To my knowledge, they only that would be within each existing program, but there is no existing overarching to look at. Right. If you were to look at green jobs category, we don't have that presently. And I think that the kind of first step of this effort is just assessing what is present in the city to date, and what are the gaps, and that would be a part of that. But we don't have it to date.
Yeah, I don't have any power over it, but I would highly recommend a tracking system be built, because I feel like in all of these initiatives, especially around green jobs, no one is ever able to say how many jobs specifically were created and people specifically move or stay in it. And it would be really wonderful for all the money going in and such an important piece of like New York City saying we've accomplished this and we've invested in the green economy, to say we've been able to actually quantitatively show results. Before we start moving aggressively in that direction, like just having the platform, whatever it is, the database, because I know so much is assessed retroactively in these initiatives. But thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Thank you.
I just want to quickly follow up, Commissioner, on Councilmember Caban's questions on RECs. For the record, and for all of us who don't do this work every single day, can you just explain about renewable energy credits, how they work, how a building or an owner might become eligible to use it in a hypothetical, given that we're approaching CAPA and all of that, but just for education purposes.
Sure. Well, in fact, I'd probably defer to Gina or Anthony, who, Gina, would you like to take this, or should we? Okay.
Thank you, Council Member. Renewable energy certificates essentially is a mechanism where a building owner can purchase a certificate for renewable energy that has been produced somewhere off-site from their building. And then they are able to take credit for that to offset the emissions that they produce at their building. The law actually sets up a framework, requires that these renewable energy certificates that can be used for Local Law 97 must be generated or directly sent into the power grid for New York City. So it's requiring that offsets that come from these RECs are happening locally. So the co-benefits that come from generation of this renewable energy stay within New York City, and so we reduce pollution here in New York City rather than a REC being generated from a long distance far away. So we do have the ability to transfer this power directly into New York City, meaning that we can reduce the use of those dirtier generation sources that are here locally. As the commissioner explained, this market right now is in its infancy. It doesn't have a lot of availability of RECs that owners would be able to purchase. But over time, we do expect it to grow. And it's very important that we take that time to look at the 2030 to 2034 limits in conjunction with how that RECs market might look a few years from now when it's much more mature. We have more RECs available so that we better understand how much of it owners will have access to. And then that may generate additional limitations on it.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And another, if I may, Co-Chair, another related question that I'd had is, you know, in preparation for this hearing, we're being educated that New York State also has, of course, a very robust green energy goals. And if New York State were to, for example, succeed in greening the electric grid for the city of New York, a lot of Local Law 97 goals could actually be met that way. Could you help us to understand that? How does New York City and the Interagency Task Force and everyone involved, how are we thinking about Local Law 97 targets vis-a-vis what the state is doing? And is there any chance that we need to be more aggressive than Local Law 97 currently has us being?
Please.
So that's exactly the purpose of the study. Over time, we know that this balance will change, and when Local Law 97 was drafted, we weren't able to benefit from the knowledge that was, light was shed upon this when the CLCPA was passed 2 months after Local Law 97. So we anticipated that the market in New York City would have to do a lot more to influence renewable energy growth in the city and around the city. Instead, the state has set these goals that are very much in alignment with the city. And so over time, that electricity will clean up. We still need to remind owners that we will never have unlimited amounts of clean, renewable energy. It comes at a cost. It comes at an environmental cost. So we need to plan for that transition to happen on the grid and to happen in our buildings. Our buildings still need to use less energy than they use today, which we know we can achieve. At the same time, we also do need to decarbonize the other energy uses in our buildings that are provided by fossil fuel. So this will relieve some pressure on owners over time for the amount of electricity that they're consuming, but we also need owners desperately to focus on the other sources of energy that they use in their buildings and to transition towards all of that clean energy.
And if I could, Chair, I'd just like to reiterate this point that number one, when New York State's grid gets clean, we should celebrate that. Sometimes when we talk about this REC issue, we act as if it's somehow a bad thing that the state is going to meet or exceed its goals, and we have to remember, like, that's part of it. The purpose of the bill is decarbonization first, and that's a good thing. But as Gina points out, it's also important to remember that a large chunk of the emissions that have to be addressed under Local Law 97 are about the on-site consumption of particularly natural gas. And as buildings replace natural gas consumption with electrical consumption, that total electricity demand goes up. So simply greening the current grid would not actually meet the goal here, right? So either we're going to have to green the grid and then dramatically expand renewable electricity production across New York State, which is not currently in the state's plan, or we have to do the combination of electrification and energy efficiency so those two match.
Thank you so much.
Let me just ask a piggyback question on the RECs. Do you agree that RECs must be limited beyond just limiting to electrical use with projects that are coming from the state or forthcoming?
Council member, as I said, or Chair, apologies, as I said, because there is going to be an impending rulemaking, there's probably nothing more I can say other than to once again state that the city's own position has been for its operations, we will use RECs for electrical, but we will not use RECs for anything that is non-electrical. And we have also voluntarily set a 20% reduction in electrical consumption target as part of our overall city decarbonization effort.
Okay, I appreciate your response. I just want to say that it does cause a little bit of worry, right? That this will be a method used so owners could avoid improving their own footprints, right? And so I just want to put that out there for the record clearly. All right, Councilmember Menon, followed by Councilmember Hanif.
Thank you so much, Chair. So first of all, I just want to amplify a question that was asked by Councilmember Nurse, really a comment about making sure to track the data regarding green jobs. I think we've unfortunately all seen too many times when an administration with much fanfare makes a big announcement. We saw it in the de Blasio administration in 2018 when they said they were going to create 100,000 jobs, and now we learn in questioning from EDC that not a single job has actually been tracked or created. And so we certainly don't want to see that vis-a-vis green jobs because it's so incredibly important. So putting in place the data metrics, the tracking system, so that when we have a hearing down the road on the creation of green jobs, you'll be able to tell us with real certainty how many jobs were created. That was really my first comment. The second thing I wanted to ask about is MWBEs. What role do you anticipate, if any, SBS playing with regard to helping with MWB uptake regarding Local Law 97?
Thank you, Council Member. Jamie, please.
I'd have to defer with my SBS colleagues, but the program that I was speaking to specifically with Construct NYC is on EDC projects. But I think, right, there's ongoing efforts in terms of mutual recognition of MWBEs at the city and the state level, which has always been a point of difficulty, but I don't really have a lot to say in regards to with SBS's role.
Okay, I mean, I just think it would be terrific if there could be coordination with SBS because, you know, we've over 11,000 MWBEs in the city. To the extent that they're ones that could be appropriate for this kind of work, making sure that you all are coordinating with SBS. Absolutely. Or really looking, for example, whether it's electrical firms, plumbing firms that might be able to be brought in to do retrofit work, making sure that that's happening.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hanif.
Thank you, chairs, and good afternoon, Commissioner Agarwala and all others representing the administration. I want to first just emphasize my support for Local Law 97 and its comprehensive implementation and enforcement is, of course, absolutely crucial in our efforts for a successful, not watered down Green New Deal for our city. My questions will mostly revolve around jobs. We know that green union jobs are the future of jobs in this city. And one particular program I'd like to know a little bit more about is the Civilian Climate Corps, which provides paid on-the-job training to New Yorkers who live in neighborhoods with high rates of gun violence. helping to create a pipeline to these jobs for communities that are often locked out of economic development efforts. Do you know how much money was allocated in this program for fiscal year 22 and 23? And some future planning, how much is going to be allocated for fiscal years 24 and 25?
I do not have that information, but I'm happy to circle back. I'm not sure if that's an EDC program or if that's, you said it's the Civilian Climate Corps?
Could you repeat that one more time?
You said it's the Civilian Climate
Corps, yeah.
I do not have that information at hand, but I'm happy to get that for you.
That'd be great.
And so fiscal year 23 to 25?
22, 23, 24, 25. And then what % of jobs created do you estimate will be union jobs?
We do not have an estimate on that, but I think that we, are completely supportive of the fact that, right, those are the best jobs that can be created out of this. As the commissioner said, since a lot of the buildings that we expect to, that will have to come into compliance are larger buildings, which are predominantly union buildings, we would expect that to generate demand for more union jobs. And so that's going to be a big focus of ours.
That's encouraging. Is there a mechanism to guarantee that all jobs are union jobs?
Councilmember, I don't think there is. The law does not encompass that. I'm not sure how you would do that. But again, as Jamie points out, because the law covers large buildings and a disproportionate share of large buildings are in fact union buildings, we can be confident that a large share of the work will wind up being done by union labor. But the law does not countenance something that directs or requires it to be done by union labor.
And then are there efforts to make sure that the jobs are filled by our diverse New Yorkers? Is there an estimate of how many women might be hired to how many folks of color?
Councilmember, once again, we've spent a lot of time already talking about the many programs. We've heard the feedback from your colleagues now that there needs to be an overarching perspective that tracks how it's done. That is exactly what EDC is working on. That was announced by Deputy Mayor Torres Springer, and the reason that the green economy is so core to this administration's efforts on the economic recovery. But we don't have answers to those questions just yet. I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning of my testimony, which is that when it comes to Local Law 97, our focus, and I believe appropriately, has been on getting the rules written and getting the word out to building owners that they have to get cracking. I think we've seen encouraging data. In fact, we've seen a significant uptick in the number of inbounds to the New York City Accelerator just since I last appeared before the City Council. We are working very hard to get these jobs created.
Wonderful. So I'll move on to building owners. I'm interested in making sure that this law stays on track under Mayor Adams. There's an expert consensus that the pollution limits Local Law 97 sets, that it sets by building type from 2024 to 2029 can be achieved by any building owner making a good faith effort. That is, there aren't any buildings that can't reasonably be expected to meet the 2024-2029 requirements. We know that the requirements starting in 2030 are tighter and more complex to meet, but the 2024 to 2029 requirements are set at such a high level that only the most polluting buildings have to do anything at all. Would you agree that the statement that it's entirely fair for the city to expect every building owner to comply with those requirements?
Councilmember, I'm not sure that I would go so far as that. There are probably 3,000 buildings that will have to comply in one way or another. In a wide diversity of buildings, you are inevitably going to have some outliers. There is one, for example, a wonderful green business that is an industrial corporation. Its functions are highly energy intensive. And frankly, they have the choice between paying a fine that would put them out of business or doing something else. And I think it's an encouraging development and entirely consistent with mobilization that I've now had personally 2 interactions with that entity, working on creative approaches that probably not by January 1 of 2024, but over time, they could achieve their targets, right? That is exactly the kind of work we are trying to do, and it is why the law's intent incorporated the good faith clause, right? This is part of the law. It is not something this administration has made up, and we believe that that is why this council saw it in its wisdom to incorporate that good faith effort clause into Local Law 97.
Thank you. Chair, do I have the permission to wrap up my line of questioning? Yes. Can you point to a single example of a building where it is unreasonable for the city to expect that the building owner to comply with the 2024-2029 requirements?
Councilmember, as I said a moment ago, I've had a number of conversations personally, and the New York City Accelerator is in contact with more than 3,000 buildings around the city. It's inevitable that we are going to have a couple of outliers. But I do not feel like I am at liberty to share the data about any particular building that I've had a conversation with thus far.
Okay, would we be able to have an off-the-record conversation about
I'd be
that?
happy to.
Okay. And then, isn't it true that most of the buildings covered by this law will save money over the medium and long term by reducing their energy waste over and above the costs of the financing they may need to arrange to pay for energy efficiency requirements?
Yes. We are very enthusiastic about the extent to which energy efficiency, generally speaking, is very much a cost-saving opportunity. And as you point out, it requires capital. It also requires the ability to get projects mobilized. And both at the city generally and the work that Anthony Fiore is leading at DCAS to mobilize the entire city government, and personally at my own agency at DEP, we know full well and sometimes capital is not the only constraint to getting stuff done in a hurry. Sometimes you have a co-op board. Sometimes you have a management structure. Sometimes you have lots of challenges that slow things down. We are working as fast as we can within New York City to green our own buildings, and we will expect the same from building owners. But we also know that reality sometimes intrudes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Aviles, followed by Councilmember Dinowitz.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much, chairs, for the hearing today, and thank you for your testimony. As some of you may know, I'm the chair of public housing, and so my line of questioning will relate to public housing in particular. As you all very well know, there is a massive backlog of repairs in public housing, including upgrades for energy efficiency. And we know that there is a real challenge around revenue generation and the need for capital to do those upgrades. Can you tell us what percentage of the city's climate pollution comes from buildings that are generated by the city's own large residential and commercial buildings,
Council member, I'm sorry, I do not have those facts at my fingertips. Perhaps Anthony does, but I don't think that was Anthony. But we can certainly get you that. That is a known number.
Great, would love
yeah.
to.
Sorry, I was waiting to be unmuted. I do not have that number, but we'll follow up and get you that number.
Great, thank you. I'd love to see that information. Is the city on track as a landlord itself to comply with pollution reductions under Local Law 97?
Anthony?
So let me just start off by saying that, 40% reduction by 2025 is certainly a very aggressive reduction. We did, however, spend over a year working with all of our agency partners and city government to come up with a plan to meet those targets. That plan includes agency-specific targets, which provide goalposts for agencies' planning and transparency and accountability, frankly, that can help spur action. And there has been a tremendous increased coordination and collaboration across city government, including with the Office of Management and Budget, the Mayor's Office of Contracts, City Hall, and others. And so we are going to do everything we can to ensure that city buildings achieve the 2025 emission reduction mandate. We look at the number of projects that we have in queue, and we have already identified just about all of the number of projects that would be required to meet that emission reduction. I will also, though, say that there are risks in achieving that emission reduction. Some of that is dependent upon how the grid becomes cleaner. Some of it is dependent on the project delivery at scale that's without precedent to date. And so this administration has been taking action to increase and streamline project delivery, as the commissioner mentioned in his testimony. And then there are other external factors that will influence the rate and pace of the work that we're able to accomplish. As we've all heard in the news so much lately, the global supply chain disruptions that we've experienced limiting our pace to date. So I think the good news is we have a plan. We know what we need to get. We have a pipeline of projects that can get us there, but we really do need everything to go right in order to meet the mandates by 2025.
Great, thank you. We'd love to see what the particular targets are, at least for the upcoming 2 years. And in particular, I'm interested in seeing how NYCHA is faring in terms of compliance with the law and how they fare into that plan.
Happy to follow up with you.
Yeah, and also I'd just love to hear more about, and perhaps we can take this also offline, is what NYCHA needs to do to comply with Local Law 97.
I will say, Councilmember, NYCHA has a very aggressive, innovative set of agenda items that it is pursuing, including some really fantastic partnerships with NYSERDA, where NYCHA's own building stock is being used to stimulate the kind of innovation and new products that are going to be relevant not only for NYCHA buildings, but actually for buildings across the city. So there's a very exciting agenda that they have. And the success in Albany in establishing the trust, we are optimistic is going to allow them to do a lot of that. But we can certainly get you a fuller report from NYCHA.
And the trust is several years away. We are needing to do this implementation now. So I would love to know very clearly what are the targets that we're working towards and whether or not the agency is in fact meeting those targets in the interim. So we'd look forward to seeing the plan, getting the information around the city-owned buildings that comprise the program portfolio. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Dinowitz.
Good morning. I always look at my watch to make sure it's still morning and not afternoon. This law is obviously extremely important for our city, for our children, and very obviously needs to be implemented right away. That reality kind of juts up against the reality that buildings are facing, that our co-ops are facing, for example, with these upfront costs. So I'm wondering if you can tell us a little more about how the city is supporting in the financing of these projects and things like consultants and engineers that are required to upfront to implement all the retrofits that need to happen in existing buildings.
Thank you, Councilmember. So the main investment that the city has made to help building owners and managers comply with the law is the New York City Accelerator, which is a service that's been around for several years. It's an investment of north of $10 million a year to a provider who does this work. And it is a fantastic service. Basically, a building owner offers a very limited amount of data that any building super would know. And the NYC Accelerator can give advice on not only what kinds of strategies might be appropriate, but also what programs are available to help that building do the work or finance the work. As we know, there's a wide variety.
Can I just pause?
Sure.
You mean city, state, and federal programs are available?
Yes. So basically, the whole concept is that because we know that the landscape of energy support programs is bewildering, right? There's a lot out there. There's support that's available directly from NYSERDA. There's support that's available from Con Edison or from National Grid if you're in their territory and use natural gas. There are certain programs that are available through HPD if you qualify for them. There are some programs that are federal in nature.
Right. So, all of these programs exist, city, state, federal.
Yes.
Why are buildings then having to hire consultants and things like that if these already exist within our city and are provided by this accelerator program?
Well, so I should be clear. The NYC Accelerator is not going to do the work.
Right.
It is incumbent on a building owner or manager to do the work on their own building, right? These programs exist to make it easier. These programs exist to expand the pool of potential financing that's available. I didn't mention there's the PACE program that will exist. Currently, we are revising the rules on it. There's support from the New York State Green Bank, NYSEC, the New York City Energy Efficiency Corporation, can provide support. There's a variety of financing mechanisms. It does fundamentally fall on the building owner or manager to get the work done in their building.
And the PACE program, are the rates different than if the building had gone to a private bank to take out a loan?
It depends on the building, frankly, because PACE financing is a program that's facilitated by the city, but the loans are still provided by private lenders.
Right.
So we have anecdotal evidence that in some cases building owners find it very attractive. And frankly, in a world of rising interest rates, that is likely to be accentuated.
Well, have you been receiving more and more pushback from buildings or concerns because of rising interest rates and the increased costs of loans?
I will say the concern that I have heard, and I spend a lot of time talking with people who either own or manage buildings or groups that are involved in that community. I have not heard rising interest rates as the main concern. Right? Generally speaking, what I hear as the main concern is that they don't understand the law, that the target seems so aggressive for some subset of the buildings that they can't even imagine how they would go about doing it. In many cases, they are conflating their 2030 targets with their 2024 targets, which is why constantly the thing I always say is that a good faith effort to comply with Local Law 97 starts with a phone call to the NYC Accelerator. It's what it is there for.
I will share that there are a lot of well-founded concerns from buildings, and this isn't to say, don't implement the law. It's to say that the buildings, I think, need a lot more help and support from the city than they're getting, because the implementation of this law is vital to the future of the city, but it needs to be done with the support of the city. Can I just ask one more quick question, chairs? Okay. I'll take the head nod of one of the chairs to mean yes. So I have more questions about that, which I'll follow up on. But my last question is, you mentioned training at the CTE schools or support at CTE schools, which I think is wonderful. What steps are being taken to expand that to the regular DOE, typical DOE high schools without CTE programs?
Jamie, do you know?
Sure. So that's one of the focuses of the interagency task force that was announced as part of the economic development blueprint, or economic recovery blueprint. Sorry. So I don't have information to share to date on what the implementable steps, but that's a focus of building this pipeline of folks to get these great jobs.
Well, the students who are not in CTE programs or CTE schools, which are most of our kids, deserve access to this same training. So I highly encourage you to include all DOE schools in your interagency planning. And as was mentioned by my colleague Cindy Nurse, really providing more than just a curriculum, provide a certification so there's something tangible that our children or our students have as they leave high school that they can then utilize in the marketplace, in the job marketplace.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Gennaro?
Yes, I just wanted to chime in on Councilmember Dinowitz's observation that there are lot of challenges, particularly among, co-ops and other entities. I could go on and on. Much of my time, I have many meetings per week in which, various sectors are coming to me and talking about their issues with compliance. I work very closely with the commissioner and his team, and I will just say that that the commissioner has been very generous with his time and his team's time in working with various entities that have very significant challenges with Local Law 97 compliance. So I've got like a compendium of it's getting bigger and bigger by the day, but we're working through it, and the commissioner and his team have been, as I said, generous in trying to facilitate better understanding on how compliance can be achieved. That doesn't solve everything, but I just wanted the council member and the other members to know that there is that that there is that dynamic in play, and even though this bill is past the council now, it's in rulemaking, but yet everyone's coming to me anyway as chair of the EP committee, and I've been in contact with Rit and his team, and we're doing our best to get the information out there so that they will at least have that available to them. So I just wanted to make that comment, Councilman Dinowitz, and have the other members be aware of this ongoing interplay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gennaro. We have Councilmember Ressler, and then Chair Sanchez has some follow-up questions.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa, Chair Sanchez, Chair Gennaro, all great colleagues, and very much appreciate your leadership here. And thank you to the administration for joining us today. Sorry, I love you. You're very kind. Thank you very much. No. We were looking at questions on hospitals, which I didn't think Rit was prepared for today.
Not so much.
But we appreciate you. Thank you, Rita and Amanda. So there were a few things that I just wanted to say, and a couple questions I was hoping to ask. And Commissioner, I have been consistent both in our private conversations and at every one of these hearings to say, I think that you are up for this job. We're fortunate to have you leading this effort for the city. This is an overwhelmingly challenging task that you have in front of you. And I know that you and Gina and everybody that's working on this are working as hard as you possibly can, and we appreciate it. It is our job, I see it as my role in particular, as a council member, to be providing the most rigorous oversight we can and to push you all to faithfully implement one of the most consequential pieces of legislation to come through this body in decades. And it is the most important piece of climate legislation to have passed any municipality in the entire country, and we want it to be a glowing success and swiftly implemented. So I want to underscore, as I said to you in our last hearing, anxiety about good faith pauses, because we all interpret good faith a little bit differently, and it's critically important to me that the really bad actors who have to comply with the law next year are in full compliance with the law. And I think that too often our enforcement agencies avoid cracking down on bad actors to try to help move them along far too slowly to get to a better place to facilitate compliance. And yes, our fundamental goal is compliance, but we need to also make sure that folks who are doing the wrong thing are held accountable and made an example of. And I hope that that is a key part of our enforcement orientation. I wanted to orient my questions today, though, a little bit more toward the incentives and the financing. We've identified I think 71 buildings in District 33, working with Kizzy's team, and she and her team are terrific. We're fortunate to have her in that role as well, that need to make adjustments to comply with Local Law 97 next year. And I've been impressed by the obstacles that we are facing. In particular, we have found the city's redrafting and negotiating of lending documents signed by PACE lenders and the city have led to only 2 large PACE projects actually moving forward because of liability concerns on the part of the city. New lending documents, I believe, are being re-released at some point soon, but could you just remind us how many buildings have received PACE financing to date and how we are going to phenomenally and dramatically and swiftly increase the number of buildings that are accessing PACE financing today?
Thank you, Councilmember. I appreciate your opening words, which sounded actually very much like my case to the mayor's transition team for why I should have this job. So you're correct, as you pointed out. To date, PACE financing has only been obtained by 2 buildings. And so on the one hand, we're very happy that those are the 2 largest PACE financings done across the United States. On the other hand, 2, as you know, is far too few. I won't go into detail. I'm happy to follow up as to why we thought it was necessary to redraft all of the documents, which unfortunately has created a significant delay. But we are enthusiastic about getting the PACE program back up and running. I will, however, point out that it has always been the case, well, 2 things have always been the case. One, that PACE is new. It is a complex thing. So the fact that we learned some things from the first 2 that required us to go back, I don't think should be taken as a failure. It's kind of an inevitable consequence to doing something that's new and complex, where a lot of money is at stake. And I think we have to take that seriously. I think the other thing that's true is that we have consistently pointed out that PACE financing is not a panacea. There are going to be lots of buildings that simply cannot get PACE financing to work, either because of who their mortgage lender is, some of the legal issues around particularly co-ops, and as a result, we think there's both an existing set of alternatives and the need for more overtime.
Before my friends tell me to shut up because I run out of time, I'm just going to sneak in a few more explicit or direct questions. Are the new lending documents finalized? Do we fully expect that the original mortgage lenders are going to sign off on those on the PACE loans? Do we have a set of goals for how many PACE loans we expect to get out the door by the end of the year? And lastly, relatedly, could you walk us through the public outreach and education plan that's associated with the Accelerator program?
Okay. So I will have to get back to you on the specific status of the restart on PACE. I could not tell you categorically whether the documents have been done because I don't know exactly where they are. I know that the rules and the documents are being worked on.
Please do follow up with me directly on that, or have your team if you don't mind.
We will do that. And I'm sorry, your other question was
the other
about
questions
the accelerator?
were, I mean, connected. If we don't have the finalized documents, then you probably can't speak to the confidence that the original mortgage lenders are going to be comfortable consistently signing off on them on additional PACE loans.
That's
on those
right.
properties.
Look, I guess, again, one of the challenges with PACE is that it is kind of a supply side thing. It's we make something available, and then the world of potential borrowers and the PACE financing community basically have to come to the city. So one of the limitations, and this is not true about New York City's PACE program, this is true about all PACE programs across the country, is that we don't have a lot of insight into the pipeline. We don't have a lot of insight into what specific mortgage lenders want to do or what they are concerned about until they come to us with problems. So it's kind of a structural constraint on PACE. And frankly, I worry a little bit that we in the policymaking community and more broadly, people are banking too much on PACE as a solution. It is a very good tool for certain circumstances in certain buildings. I do not believe that shortcomings with the PACE program should be construed as a reason that Local Law 97 compliance is unobtainable.
I couldn't agree with that sentiment more, but I am, I've got co-ops in my district, middle-income folks. I want them to have access to the resources they need to be able to make the improvements in their buildings so that we can offer them all of the carrots in the world before we bring down the heavy. And So I'm focused on the incentives here, and I'm concerned that we don't have the incentives working yet, that we still don't have the updated lending documents finalized, that we're still concerned. And are there goals? I mean, I guess we'll see when we actually have the documents finalized, but do we have goals for the year for how many PACE loans we're trying to get out the door at this point?
I do not have one in my head, no.
Okay. I think that this is going to be an area that we're going to have to do a lot of work together. And then on the public education outreach, and I want to be a partner on this. I've already identified the buildings in my district. I'm going to be reaching out to each of them individually, myself. We should all be doing this across the city. We want to be your partners. We want to offer the positive incentives, but we need the tools. I realize it's not a panacea, but it's a very, very, very important tool, and it needs to be working. So I just want to express my real concern about it. Sorry for going on and on. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Ressler. And when I grow up, I will speak as quickly as you do. Sneak in all of my questions. No, different conversation, different conversation. Commissioner, I actually wanted to follow up on something mentioned by Co-Chair Gennaro just a few moments ago about industries that have been reaching out, particular concerns. Of the many responsibilities that OBEEP has, thinking about adjustments for special categories is one of them. And understanding, you know, the limitations, because so much of this will be going through cap and rulemaking and everything else. But can you walk us through what are some of these special categories that have been identified to date? Will the working group and advisory board address all of these concerns? I mean, I've heard from rent-stabilized buildings, buildings that are above that 35% threshold, heard, of course, from cooperatives, heard from supermarkets, and I know that hospitals are a special category already under consideration, but can you tell us about what are these categories and anything that you can share at this time about those deliberations?
Well, I'll ask Gina, whose office, of course, is tasked with that. But let me make a quick observation. You know, we heard from Councilmember Hanif earlier, who is in asking me to agree that there's basically no problem with compliance in 2024. And your comments, Chair Gennaro's comments, Councilmember Ressler's comments, highlight the fact that there are challenges that buildings are having with complying in 2024. And the whole purpose of the way the Adams administration intends to implement this law is, once again, to help get those buildings mobilized, right? The fines, the penalties are part of that. The other components of the law, which the council saw fit to include in Local Law 97, are also part of that, right? The adjustment process that you just described is part of that. The good faith clause is part of that. And so we intend to implement this law in its entirety and take those into account. And before I ask Gina to talk about it, I will just also point out that I think one aspect of the rhetoric around this law is that it's very easy to imagine all of the buildings out of compliance, especially in 2024, which we know are the buildings at the absolute upper end of their building category, that they're all big, Class A fancy office buildings in Manhattan. And yet they are not. The vast majority are, in fact, residential. Out of, and because we don't yet know exactly how many will qualify for the prescriptive path because they have 35% under rent stabilization, we don't know quite how many of these, but our estimate is that there are roughly 3,500 buildings that are out of compliance. As I said, it's probably below, roughly around 2,700. That's a very rough estimate. Again, once we take out what we imagine might qualify for that prescriptive path that's laid out in the law for rent-stabilized buildings, but only 1,500 of that 3,500 set is in Manhattan. Of those Manhattan buildings, 75% are residential. There are 1,000 buildings in the Bronx that are out of compliance for 2024. There are another 400 in Brooklyn, another 400 in Queens. Right? Of course, there are fewer in Staten Island just because of the size limitation, the average size of buildings in Staten Island. But it is a widely varied group of buildings, which is one of the reasons I've personally found it fascinating to learn. And it's one of the reasons, as Chairman Gennaro said, I've been welcoming, I've taken a number of these conversations personally, because it helps educate me on the specific challenges that buildings are facing, which will inform us both on how we think about the rules for compliance, how we think about things like the appropriate way the good faith clause ought to be interpreted so that it gets the most compliance while being reasonable. And also to think about what additional things we need to develop to help compliance between that 2024 and 2030 period. But let me ask Gina to answer your specific question about the adjusted targets.
Thank you, Chair. It's a great question. There are a couple different mechanisms within the law. So I want to share with you what we've been doing on each of those. As you mentioned, there's an adjustment specific to hospitals. They had a deadline last summer to report to the department that they wanted to pursue that adjustment. We are in the process of working with all of those hospital organizations through their applications that they made to the department. And I think on some of them, we're very close to giving them that adjustment for 2030 or for 2024 to 2029 timeframe. A second adjustment in the law provides a path for owners who have really unusual circumstances in their building. So where we believe the large majority of owners should be able to comply with their targets. As Rit has suggested, there are outliers, there are unique buildings that have these strange things happening in them, telecommunications, manufacturing, very large energy-intensive functions that they make them different from other buildings. So we're in the process of working through those applications as well. There was some press that suggested that those owners had never heard from the department, but in fact, every single application has had a response, and we are, in most cases, waiting for the owner to come back and work with us. We're very close to beginning to issue the first approvals of those adjustments as well. So we look forward to continuing that process with those owners.
Got it. Can you spell some of those out? So you said telecommunications, manufacturing. What other applications have been received?
I would have to check in with my team to share some examples, but we'd be happy to share that with you afterwards.
Great. That would be helpful because, of course, Local Law 97, these are critical goals, but we want to be fully informed to understand how goals are working against each other, right?
If I could share, I'll just anecdotally, among the things that, as Gina describes, we have a number of energy-intensive industries in the city that are disproportionately affected. It doesn't mean that there is not a way for many of them to electrify or reduce their energy consumption. But it is also going to be a question for us whether bakeries, for example, can continue to be in New York City if they are subject to fines in 2024. There are other things.
Bakeries.
Exactly. And so that, again, is why there's judgment laid out in the law that is consistent with the purpose of Local Law 97. We do not intend to allow buildings to get off the hook. I completely agree with Councilmember Ressler that we have to use the enforcement in an aggressive way to push owners and managers to be ambitious. We also have to take these unique circumstances into account and ensure that we don't, for example, drive an energy-intensive industry to Nassau County when we could have had those jobs in Brooklyn or Queens because people are going to have their baked goods regardless, right?
Right. No, and I thank you for that, and I just want to make sure we continue this conversation. Part of my response, I've also been similarly approached by several industries, and part of the response is we should talk about it, and I'm sure that you, to them I say, I'm sure you've been talking with the administration, because it's not about circumventing and not meeting the targets of Local Law 97, but instead it is about figuring out how we work with those industries. So,
precisely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We have Councilwoman Farias and then Councilmember Holden.
Hello, thank you so much, chairs. And I will be quick. I just have some workforce questions. I'm trying to stay on brand here. So, I apologize if it's already been answered as I came in a little bit later into the hearing. In terms of economic activity, are we seeing an increase in economic activity and job creation as a result of Local Law 97?
Councilmember, the number of buildings that have to do work based on the 2024 compliance period is really only below 3,000, we expect. And as a result, that level of work really isn't going to be visible in the overall green economy of New York City. So the answer is no. On the other hand, as has been cited, we can estimate the number of jobs that were created by the city's own work on energy efficiency and decarbonization, and I cited that at roughly 3,000 to date, or did I say 4,000? And there's more to come. So we don't have a good answer specifically to Local Law 97 right now, but we believe that the jobs are out there.
Okay, great.
Anything else, sorry, to add, Jamie? Okay.
And so I guess I wanted to ask a little bit about the jobs that have been created, and I always like to ask what were created for communities of color, for women particularly in these fields, for young people in training. Has there been a training pipeline working in partnership with unions and or any public-private partnerships to get people into the green workforce?
Yes, in my prepared testimony, I highlighted a number of those, and we can talk about those again. But there is a whole set of initiatives, some with unions, some with the existing workforce training infrastructure in New York City, some with the schools and with CUNY, and of course, Jamie is leading the work that the administration is doing more broadly. So, Jamie.
Yeah, I think a good example is the green. Sorry, I forget the exact terminology that we're using for this. But essentially, the Green Job Corps. So that was set up in 2017, and that was a direct partnership with the unions to get. It was set up for 3,000 pre-apprenticeships for this exact type of work, and I think that's a great model for the type of partnership that we're looking at going forward. And I think. Just to reiterate, this is really central to the mayor's economic recovery blueprint of the green economy being a big part of New York City's economy going forward, and to have that be as inclusive as possible. And so some of the other examples I'd point to are EDC's offshore wind program as well, which has very clear targets as what we're looking to do going forward.
Okay, great. Oh, I still have so much time. Sorry. And so I read through some of the documents I was provided, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the green workforce and its enforcement or meeting the demand of compliance. Can we talk a little bit about that difficulty and what could the city be doing, even though I heard you say around the fines and penalties is something that's going to help with enforcement and help with meeting that demand, but also what could the city be doing to ensure enforcement is sufficient and that the workforce is available to meet the need, and or getting the building owners to actually put their buildings up for being retrofitted or within this process in a timely manner to meet the 2024-ish deadline.
Thanks, Councilmember. So I'll say at the outset, I have not, in all of the conversations I have had anyway with building owners and managers, no one who's focused on the 2024 compliance period has cited an inability to find workers as a challenge facing compliance. So right now we have no evidence that that is a real constraint for the immediate term. As we said earlier, the number of buildings that have to comply in 2030 is significantly greater, and so the need to grow this workforce is really between the 2024 and 2030 compliance periods. And as Chair De La Rosa cited in her initial remarks, it is going to be important for buildings to comply ahead of schedule in 2030, because if everybody wants to do work in 2029, of course, that is the kind of thing that will create a challenge, and that's entirely consistent with how the administration intends to drive implementation of the law. So really the challenge that we face is going to be past 2024, and we don't see it as being a big challenge right now.
Okay, and I just have one small follow-up. Are we consistently as a city looking at ways to get more and more workers trained in conjunction or like simultaneously at the same time, getting more buildings to be as a part of this process annually as possible? Because one of the larger concerns we have is people getting credentialed or people getting trained, and then there not being actual jobs out there for them to work or enough. So scaling a workforce is relatively easy because especially now, post-pandemic, we have people that are interested in changing careers or trying to go into new sectors, and there is a need. But if like you said, if building owners are waiting till 2029, we might have 4 or 5 years of people sitting around going into different areas of work after getting credentialed and trained. So is there a consistent effort to say we want 1,000 buildings or 12,000 buildings a year because we need this amount of workforce that we're training to meet that demand?
Well, council member, so a couple of observations. So it will be our intention to drive early compliance. The law does not actually create an early compliance mechanism.
Okay.
Right? And so, in fact, it would be only under the discretion provided to the administration that we could do anything like that. And for example, I at least believe that that's one of the reasons that the good faith clause is in this law, is because it allows the administration to define a good faith effort, which we will do in rulemaking. And so it will be available for public comment. That is an approach by which, however, we can point out that if you have a target at something supposed to be done by January 1 of 2024, January 1 of 2030, starting at the last minute is not evidence of good faith.
Sure.
Right? And so we believe this gives us the ability to help shape that compliance path.
Okay, great. Do you think we could create or something that could incentivize people doing this earlier? Like an incentive, would that be helpful?
As I said, the law does not countenance that, other than the way the administration interprets good faith compliance. So that would be a separate conversation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holden?
Thank you, chairs. Just a few questions, and just on your observations on the good faith effort. I think that we'll have to have someone who's very wise because of the challenges. When you said 75% of these buildings, 2024, are residential, you said that, right?
I'm not sure if I said 75%. I'd have to check that, but it is
I heard
certainly
75%.
the majority.
I don't know.
Certainly the majority.
So there's a lot of, most of the buildings will be residential.
That's correct.
So that's where you need somebody that can say, the good faith effort is defined, obviously as if somebody, puts solar, energy on the roof or in the building, or geothermal to try to, in advance even of the deadlines. That could be a good faith effort, right?
Well, look, I'll just say it because again, we are going to.
I know you said you're discussing this.
So I don't want to say too much.
But I think a reasonable person might say they're trying. Whether they meet the goals is like we talked about, a lot here. But
look, I'll council member, I'm sorry to go back to it, but as I said in my testimony, sorry, where did I? Well, sorry, I can't find it right at the top. Oh, yes, it's our goal is to get every covered building mobilized to reduce emissions and reach their targets under the law. What the law countenances in terms of providing the administration with some leeway in terms of good faith effort.
Right.
I'm not sure it imagines a situation in which a building never manages to meet its target, right? I think good faith is about timing. It is not about kind of a steady state that falls short of that target.
Right, but I just we don't want a punitive administration that pass. Then the cost of all this will be passed to the tenants, and we don't want that. And that's what the last thing we want. We want to create a balance, and that's what we're talking about here. I think a balance, which I think you're reasonable and you understand that. So
that's right.
I just want to there's a number of, you said, and there was another, renewable energy. Let's talk about that for a second. There's a number of major projects that the city is looking at, and Clean Path New York project, and there's one, the Champlain Hudson Power Express, which will, Hydro-Quebec, Empire Wind, offshore wind farms, all this, and, something at the Brooklyn Marine Terminal, that could, help obviously with renewable energy in the future. When do all these projects, would they be in effect by a certain date? Or are we talking 2030?
Council member, you're correct that there's a ton of work going on.
Right.
There are many projects that they all take multiple years to implement. I'd have to.
Do we have an
defer.
estimate? Would somebody pull all this together?
I'm sure we could get you. I don't have in front of me or in my head the.
Yeah, and
turn-on
specific
dates.
goals for what percentage of our energy will be renewable by what date? If you can get us that, like an estimate, somebody figuring this out, that could fit into the plan that we're addressing tonight.
Right. Well, and I will point out, and Gina can elaborate actually, that one of the things the advisory committee is discussing, and ultimately the city will have to take into account in its rulemaking for 2030, is what we expect the city's energy supply to be in terms of its carbon coefficient. So that is a number that we are actively paying attention to. Gina?
Thank you, council member. So as I mentioned before, there's a study that has been funded mainly to look at those emissions limits for 2030 to 2034. And in light of doing that, having a better understanding of what amount of renewables will be available to New York City coming into Zone J is an important part of that study. So we understand what amount of the burden is really being absorbed by the energy grid and what amount of burden do we need to respond to at the building scale.
And that study are we talking about goals here, though? Do we have goals on renewable?
We have goals at the state level for 100% by 2040 for all electricity. And
okay.
I don't know if we can get more information from Anthony on that. You're following that.
But the city doesn't have the goals. We don't know the goals of the city of New York.
No, because of course the management of the grid is primarily a state responsibility, and so we can have our own aspirations, and there is certainly work that we can and should be doing to drive as much renewables, as many renewables into our local supply as possible. We haven't taken the step of setting goals simply because it's not within the city's authority to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, chairs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless we have any other questions?
No.
Okay.
But I will just take this opportunity to thank RIT and the panel for all the good work thus far and all the collaboration, and it shall continue. And just wanted to put on the record that I'm very appreciative for the very good response that I've had as we've marched forward on this. So that's my statement. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming, and I know you've been here twice in a very short time, but as we mentioned earlier, it's a sign of what a priority this is for this council. So thank you so much for being here. Pass it over to Nick.
Thank you. We have concluded administration testimony, and we will now turn to public testimony. I will call on individuals one by one to testify. However, we will call a group of 5 witnesses for our first group, and then we will turn to call witnesses one by one. Each witness will be given 2 minutes to speak. If you are a virtual witness, after I call your name, a member of our staff will unmute you. There may be a few seconds of delay before you are unmuted. Please wait for the Sergeant-at-Arms to announce that you may begin before starting your testimony. Council members who have questions for a particular panelist should alert the chair or committee staff. The chair will call on you after the panel has completed their testimony or the individual witness has completed their testimony in the order in which you raised your hand. I would now like to welcome our first panel of public witnesses, Henry Garrido, John Forster, Victoria Queso, Brett Thomason, and Carolina Gomez.
Time starts now.
Henry Garrido, you may begin.
So as he gets ready, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Moya.
Henry Garrido, are you present to testify? We will move to John Forster. John
Time.
Forster, you may begin when the sergeant indicates.
Time starts now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm hoping you can hear me and see me. I'm doing this remotely, obviously. We're deeply concerned. I'm the co-chair of the District Council 37 Climate Justice Committee. And both the committee and, of course, the District Council in general is deeply concerned about implementing Local Law 97 in its totality and ensuring that that's done, obviously, as equitably as possible. But there are deep concerns as to whether or not it's actually moving forward. I mean, one of the things that I heard today on the testimony, frankly, was that NYCHA, for instance, is trying to comply with this. And yet my understanding is that in the New York City Housing Authority, that gas boilers are being replaced with gas boilers. And that doesn't seem to be moving us forward in the ways intended by Local Law 97. And I'm concerned about why that would be. And that part of my concern on this is also, is there a maintenance and operations staff ready to go that could in fact be able to maintain cleaner energy alternatives to gas boilers, which raises a larger question, which is I think that the city of New York needs to understand and prepare in every agency the need for using cleaner energy approaches in order to get the kind of compliance that we're looking for. And one of the things that I've run into is that I'm not sure that we have had the training provided that would allow for maintenance and operation of different systems, enforcement of different systems, design for different
Time
systems.
expired.
So that's a big concern. I strongly urge that we move forward with Local Law 97 as it was originally intended. I appreciate, thank you for the time.
Thank you. We will now hear testimony from Victoria Queso.
In time.
Good afternoon, Chairs De La Rosa, Gennaro, and Sanchez, and members of the committees. My name is Tori Queso, and I am a campaign director at Climate Jobs New York, a growing coalition of labor unions representing 2.6 million workers statewide, committed to advancing a pro-climate, pro-worker agenda. Cornell University's Labor Leading on Climate program recently released Climate for a Change, a complete climate jobs roadmap for NYC, a report that lays out a concrete plan to address these issues of climate change and lower New York City's emissions while addressing racial and economic inequity by investing in pro-worker renewable energy transition. Major job opportunities exist if we do climate work the right way, and they span nearly every economic sector, including building energy efficient retrofits. We must ensure that the jobs created in the clean energy economy are family-sustaining, long-term careers that have lasting economic impacts in communities of color and historically under-resourced communities. It is especially important that any public dollars spent on financing, subsidizing, or otherwise financially incentivizing or administering funds for building retrofits should attach strong labor standards, including prevailing wage PLAs for constructions, LPAs for other than construction jobs, and pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship and other forms of labor management training programs that lend to the readiness of the workforce to take on the work resulting from Local Law 97 and additional climate initiatives. The only way to guarantee the creation of new career pathways in building retrofits is by funding a robust pipeline of union work under a PLA, which is exactly what we were calling for under the Carbon Free and Healthy Schools initiative, as laid out in the Climate for Change report. The city can lead by example by prioritizing its transition to carbon-free and healthy schools by 2030, which will not only reduce emissions and save the city millions annually in energy costs, but the report estimates that over 62,000 direct good union jobs can be created over the lifetime of the initiative. Additionally, this can serve as a blueprint for decarbonizing the city's public buildings beyond schools, including NYCHA and NYC Health and Hospitals, initiatives that Cornell's report estimates to have the potential to create nearly 260,000 direct jobs combined. These investments in building retrofits are necessary and urgent in order to lower the city's emissions and make our schools and communities healthy. But without question, they must go hand in hand with creating union career pathways and well-funded pre-apprenticeship programs under PLAs in order to truly create a green workforce pipeline that leads to lasting union careers for our environmental justice and frontline communities, improving environmental and economic resiliency for all New Yorkers. Thank you for your time today and your diligence on this matter.
Is she still on? Could she hear me? Okay. Tori, thank you for your good testimony. I'm just want to make a note to my legislative director, Nabi Kaur, to be in touch with you. We want to find out more about what you're doing. Yeah, so Nabi, if you could make sure that you connect with Tori, get a full download on all of her activities and what she's doing with Cornell, that would be a really welcome addition to the family of Local Law 97 and how it affects labor. We would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair De La Rosa.
Thank you. We'll now hear testimony from Brett Thomason.
Starting time.
Thank you. I'm Brett Thomason, Political Director at Steamfitters, Local 638. We're a union that represents over 9,400 members who work in heating and HVAC. We do boiler repairs and replacements. We have a civil service department that works in city-owned buildings. We have a PLA to do boiler replacements in NYCHA facilities. So we have a lot of stake in the successful implementation of this law. And a lot of what I was going to say has already been said. So I will get to the top line points that we wanted to make, which is one, we think it's really important that the administration signal to building owners that there's going to be rigorous compliance and penalties if the law isn't followed, so that we send a strong market signal to our contractors so that they're prepared with the workforce needed to do this work. And in turn, that lets us grow the ranks of our union, both through our organizing efforts and through our apprenticeship programs, which are bringing in pre-apprentices from a lot of the programs that have been mentioned, and providing opportunity to women and people of color, veterans, the formerly incarcerated, and lifting them into the middle class, because that's what we do as a union. I also want to stress the need to avoid, whenever possible, the use of RECs for compliance. I understand, they feed into the New York City energy grid, and we do have a need for more clean energy, but I think the state and city have more valuable tools in their toolbox to take care of the greening of the grid. Anytime we're diverting dollars into a REC program, that's money that could be invested locally in jobs and in jobs for our members. And then finally, like I mentioned, we work in NYCHA buildings, and the need there is pervasive, and they've been underserved for far too long. So the more investment we can make in NYCHA and public housing will not only bring, I'll conclude there.
Thank you, and we will now hear testimony.
Brett, thank you for being here. As always good to work with the Steamfitters. I appreciate all the collaboration we've had thus far, and it will continue. You know where to find me. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you. We will now hear testimony from Carolina Gomez.
Starting time.
My name is Carolina Gomez. I'm a campaign coordinator at Align, the Alliance for Greater New York. Align leads the Climate Works for All Coalition, a citywide partnership of labor, community, and faith environmental justice and climate organizations fighting climate change and inequality in New York City by demanding a just transition for workers and environmental justice communities. After almost 6 years of organizing after Hurricane Sandy, the Climate Works for All coalition successfully led the passing of Local Law 97 in 2019, New York City's landmark climate legislation. It's been 3 years since the historic win, and now the city must equitably implement Local Law 97 to create thousands of green jobs here in New York City. Researchers project Local Law 97 has the potential to create more than 140,000 jobs by 2030 in the New York City metro area. These jobs can directly support both journey persons who've suffered pandemic-related job losses, in addition to apprentices and new entry workers joining the green workforce. New York City should take this opportunity to invest in successful union-linked pre-apprenticeships, apprenticeships, and certification training programs to fully support the growing clean energy industry and expand access to good green jobs to workers who have experienced pandemic job losses. Workforce development coupled with project labor agreements and community hiring will expand opportunities for traditionally underrepresented New Yorkers in green industries, including many women, immigrants, and Black and Brown New Yorkers. There are already successful workforce development models the city can look to for further expansion. The Build It Back program, launched after Hurricane Sandy hit New York City, is a successful community hiring model that the city should build on. The community hiring program, which focused on union apprenticeship placement and job placements, created more than 13,000 direct jobs and exceeded its 20% local hiring goal. New York City should build on the Build It Back model and incorporate the following 3 considerations to improve its effectiveness: collaborate with union-linked direct entry programs and apprenticeships to ensure community-based organizations have time to recruit and organize local workers, fund local targeted outreach in different languages to increase awareness and program enrollment, fund classes for test of adult basic education preparation and GED tests that can be paired with pre-apprenticeship programs. The city can and should require community hiring for public building upgrades, and there should be incentives for community hiring for private infrastructure projects. So now
Time
it's the time
expired.
for implementation to ensure the communities that have been hit the hardest by both COVID-19 pandemic and longstanding environmental racism have access to good green jobs. Thank you all.
Thank you, Carolina. Always good to see you. You know Matt Malloy, my labor liaison, right? Do you know him?
I do not.
Okay, you know what? I want to direct Nabi Kaur, who is here. She's my legislative director. Nabi, if you can make sure that Matt Malloy is in touch with Carolina, that would be great. Okay, thank you very much. Always good to see you, Carolina.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chair Gennaro. I also want to just thank our partners in labor for coming and talking about the importance of Local Law 97. One quick question, and all of you or any of you can answer this question on this panel. What preparation is your union undertaking to train or equip your members for the building retrofits that will be required under Local Law 97?
So at DC 37, we've hired to help with that process, and we're looking to do additional training to comply with the Local Law 97 mandates and the public oversight of that process. I think it's really important that we understand the need for a vigorous enforcement, as in any new law, especially in terms of making this a possibility. And certainly so, the training also needs to happen in enforcement and maintenance and operation. And as I said, also in design. But we've already hired some energy auditors to help this process move forward.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear a testimony from.
Oh, she has a question.
Okay.
Sorry.
Apologies, and thank you, Chair. So just to follow up on Chair De La Rosa's question, what specific fields and jobs, and this is also a question that anyone can answer, but would love to get a sense, what specific fields and jobs that your union represents do you think will be directly impacted by the pipeline of work created by Local Law 97 retrofits?
I was going to let my colleagues respond, and if they are going to, that'd be great. But again, I think it's going to be in a series of, for us as District Council 37, I mean, we represent 150,000 public sector workers, so there's a lot of aspects to this. So really from from both design and design oversight through construction and construction oversight, so construction project managers, associate project managers, then also through inspections. Those are also people that are represented in DC 37, and in enforcement also, folks. So I think at every stage and aspect of the implementation of 97, from the design process right through to the sign-off and enforcement process for us.
Thank you. The others might need to be unmuted. I don't know if that's an issue. Maybe not. Okay. Thank you so much, DC 37.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We will now hear from Ben Furness.
Starting time.
Good morning, everyone. Chairs De La Rosa, Gennaro, and Sanchez, thank you so much for holding this hearing. It's really lovely to see you all today. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this important issue. My name is Ben Furness. I'm the director of the 2030 project at Cornell University. I previously served as the director of the New York City Mayor's Office of Climate and Sustainability. The 2030 project is Cornell's new climate initiative, housed at the Cornell Atkinson Center for Sustainability. And we are using the many tools of a world-class research institution to support impact-oriented work, entrepreneurship, and scholarship in this decisive decade for climate action. And it's really great to be able to speak on this important law today. As you know, the fossil fuels used to heat, cool, and power our buildings account for 2/3 of New York City's greenhouse gas emissions, and any path to reducing these emissions and achieving the city's and state's bold climate goals run through decarbonizing these systems. To that end, in 2019, the New York City Council, working in close partnership with the Mayor's Office, passed into law the Climate Mobilization Act and its centerpiece, Local Law 97. This law sets emission targets for New York City's largest buildings, which encompass nearly 60% of New York City's built area and more than 3 billion square feet. The law's emissions targets are ambitious, but they vary based on the use of the building and are reasonably tailored to the energy consumption of multifamily residential, commercial, hotel, manufacturing, industrial, and other uses. They are technique agnostic, which means there are many ways for a building to comply, just as long as emissions are reduced. This law is the most far-reaching municipal level climate law in the world. If fully implemented, it would reduce climate pollution by approximately 5.3 million tons per year, equivalent to the annual greenhouse gas emissions of the city of San Francisco. And this is not just about climate. Reducing New York City's emissions comes with proportional reductions in air pollution and improvements to human health from reduced asthma and other respiratory diseases. Today, I'd like to highlight a few aspects of Local Law 97 and some opportunities and challenges that the council and the administration
Time
face.
expired.
Thank you. I'd just like to highlight 3 opportunities. 1, this is a major job creating and business development opportunity. 2, New York City should look to expand support for building owners while maintaining the incentives for partial improvement that come from the targets. The right regulatory environment can ease the way for building upgrades, and building level efficiency and electrification upgrades work best when paired with renewable energy investments connected to the New York City grid. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll have more in my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you for testifying. If you could just submit your testimony for us to review in full, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next registered witness is Henry Garrido.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chairs De La Rosa, Gennaro, and Sanchez, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Henry Garrido, Executive Director of the District Council 37, representing 150,000 members and about 90,000 retirees. And I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today. Our members are the backbone of New York City's infrastructure. So therefore, we are in full support of the swift and equitable implementation of Local Law 97, which is not only the best defense in the city that the city has against climate change, but a significant opportunity to create new jobs for those in our communities who lost employment during the pandemic. The New York City must follow on its commitment to reducing greenhouse emissions that contribute to climate change. And not taking these aggressive actions will continue to reap devastating consequences for all New Yorkers, but especially for those low-income communities who bear the brunt of the most frequent climate-related disasters above all others. There is an urgency to ensure that these newly created positions are union affiliated, which has proven successful through the other once-in-a-lifetime workforce development opportunities. When the city launched a Build It Back program after Hurricane Sandy, the community hiring program created more than 13,000 direct jobs by focusing on union apprenticeship and job placements, exceeding the 20% local hiring goal and directly benefiting New York City residents. As we navigate the economic fallout of our pandemic and a staggering unemployment rate, the city should target those workers who lost employment over the past 2 years and connect them to these opportunities. Researchers project that Local Law 97 has the potential of creating more than 140,000 new jobs by 2030. Workforce development, coupled with project labor agreements and community hiring, will expand opportunities for those New Yorkers traditionally underrepresented in green industries, including women, immigrants, and people of color. Creating these jobs, green jobs, will improve the lives of working class New Yorkers that need it the most. Thank you. And I just want to add lastly to the questions that the chair raised regarding what the unions have done. I just want to add to, in addition to what John Foster said, we have secured federal and state grants to begin to train union workers on issues from energy auditors to lead infrastructure to a number of other pieces. And we're excited about the possibility and the prospect of providing those jobs for New York and for the New York City government. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry, for your continued partnership on behalf of our partners in labor. I do have one question for you. Has the administration's messaging around the implementation of local law impacted your approach to training or investment at all?
Yeah, I mean, when we did collective bargaining in the last round, we increased the amount of money that had been there by 400% in order to prepare ourselves for this. And that is, it's not say architects, engineers, and project managers were receiving a dismal $2.38 a year to be able to be trained out. We thought it was ridiculous, and we set aside a particular amount in collective bargaining to allow for the training of those individuals to be prepared for these jobs. I think that we've had conversations with the administration regarding what a just transition looks like, including training and professional development for those members. But I do think that there could be a work where the city council can help us in a way that we can coordinate among city agencies, meaning DDC, DCAS, the School Construction Authority, and some other agencies. We need a better coordination across agencies to be able to do that. And I think that I appreciate this hearing for that, because it allows us to continue to have that conversation going.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next 4 individuals that will be called to give testimony in the following order are Santos Rodriguez, Christine James McKenzie, Pete Sikora, and Megan Ahern. Santos Rodriguez, you may begin your testimony.
In time.
Mr. Rodriguez does not appear to be in attendance. We can circle back. Christine James McKenzie, you may begin when ready.
Starting time.
Christine James McKenzie does not appear to be in attendance. We will circle back. Next, we'll hear from Pete Sikora.
Hey, thanks so much for putting on this hearing. It's greatly appreciated. This oversight is absolutely vital. My name is Pete Sikora. I'm the Climate Campaigns Director for New York Communities for Change, and I'm on the Advisory Council. Local Law 97, the key thing here is that the strength of the pollution cuts and the requirements and the enforcement of those cuts drives the amount of job creation. And if the administration doesn't fully implement and enforce the law, that will cost both jobs and pollution cuts. Our members really need those jobs. We need the pollution cuts as well. I was very disheartened by the administration's comments on RECs, minimizing the importance of renewable energy credits if they are allowed and unlimited effectively as an impact on the law. The number of RECs being created by the projects is huge, and they need to be limited to just electrical and at most 10% of the pollution reduction requirements, or otherwise we'll see less jobs and less pollution cuts. That cannot be allowed to be a big loophole. Secondly, on enforcement, the administration should make clear that this law is to be followed, full stop. There are plenty of useful programs, and the outlier buildings that may or may not be able to comply are just outliers. That shouldn't be something that's stressed all the time. Instead, the administration should be making clear that the law must be obeyed, and that if it's not, penalties will be enforced. There are plenty of positive programs. The administration is moving in the right direction on a lot of stuff, and that's appreciated. They ruled out carbon trading, which is a very good thing. Which is a very good thing to do right now. We appreciate that. That may come back later, but for now that's out. The budget is in the right place now for this year, which is appreciated. They've made progress on that after an initial bad budget proposal. But one last point that I want to make before the timer goes off is that, there it is, 15 seconds, that the fact that they are hiding behind the rulemaking process to not answer questions is disturbing to me. I don't understand how they're able to construct and have a vigorous conversation, which I know is going on behind closed doors, about all of these questions and not come here and explain some of their considerations. So I hope that you follow up with questions to the administration to find out exactly why they're not answering these questions and what they're thinking is going on these issues. Again, thank you so much for holding this hearing. We really appreciate what the council has done, and this law will go down, as Lincoln Ressler said and others have said, as one of the most important climate and jobs laws in the world. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Pete, for your work and the work you've been doing. And I agree with your comments about the regulations that are being made. I think that's why this hearing is so important and was so important to keep on the calendar, because we want to allow for the public to have input and a say in what is going to come before us. And so I just want to thank you for your insights today.
Thank you, and you have the full testimony here, which is 11, 12 pages. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Just echoing the thanks. Thanks so much, Pete.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just say something to Pete as well. Thank you as always, Pete, for making the case. We certainly hear you on RECs, and with regard to the CAPA process is what it is, and we're going to be keeping a close watch on that. But we'll be keeping a close eye on the CAPA process. But
Thank you, Council.
It is so. I could count on you to be here today, and here you are in person, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Megan Ahern.
Hi, I'm Megan Ahern, NIPERG's Program Director. Thanks for holding this hearing today, chairs, and for the ability for me to testify in support of Local Law 97, and specifically the opportunity it presents for CUNY with the tens of thousands of jobs and multi-billion-dollar energy retrofit market in our future. It's a great step for CUNY in a time when enrollment has been experiencing a recent slump. Consistent with national data, community colleges have been hit worse and longer with enrollment dips. But as the pandemic hit, CUNY saw enrollment cut by 21,000 full-time enrollments. And this is a kind of investment in the green economy that could benefit programs like building trades and industrial skilled trades at Bronx Community College, construction, building management, sustainability at LaGuardia Community College, a whole slew of programs at City Tech, the Spitzer School of Architecture at City College, and many, many more. I would like to echo the sentiments of other people to make that it's important that the City Council work to have the mayor make a clear statement to fully implement and enforce the law, to tightly limit renewable energy credits, set rules and regulations properly to maximize local jobs, and that means pollution reductions via energy efficiency upgrades and minimizing RECs, and an idea to create a $100 million per year grant fund to provide support for upgrades to low to middle income multifamily housing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments as well.
Yeah, and I just want to jump into, thank NIPERG for their good testimony, particularly with regard to the CUNY angle. I've already had conversations with President Adams at LaGuardia about this. I have Queens College in my district as well. I used to teach there. So the nexus, between Local Law 97, CUNY, and jobs is not lost on me. But it's great when NIPERG does everything it does in order to affirm that, and your presence here does that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. The next 4 registered witnesses that will be called on are Hayden Alexander, Ethan Dubin, Nina Liloa, and Shiv Soin. Hayden Alexander, you may begin when ready. Hayden Alexander does not appear to be present. We will next call on Ethan Dubin.
Starting time.
Ethan Dubin does not appear to be present. Next, we will call on Nina Liloa.
Hi, thank you, Chairs De La Rosa, Gennaro, and Sanchez. My name is Nina, and I am an environmental justice intern at New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of background on the benefits of union labor and a few recommendations related to Local Law 97. New York currently trails the rest of the country in terms of recovery from pandemic-related job losses. By April 2022, the US had recovered 95% of jobs lost during the pandemic recession. However, New York City specifically had recovered only 71% of jobs. The problem is most severe among unemployed Black residents of working age in New York, nearly half of whom are long-term unemployed. Union membership brings wage benefits for all workers in construction. Median weekly earnings for union members in construction are about 31% higher than median weekly earnings for non-union members. But unions are especially crucial to increasing diversity in the building trades and getting resources to minority communities. Hispanic and Black construction workers who are in a union earn about 35% more than construction workers who are not. The presence of unions and collective bargaining in New York City also boosts overall annual wages to the Black community from construction by about 83%, or $152 million each year. A Gallup poll from this past August showed that American approval of labor unions is at its highest rate since 1965. To the greatest extent possible, jobs created by Local Law 97 must be union jobs in which workers receive just wages, benefits, and good working conditions. This can occur through proactive project labor agreements between building trade unions and contractors, which also protect taxpayers by eliminating costly delays caused by labor conflicts or shortages of skilled workers. A livable future for workers also requires clean air and water in the places they live, rights recently codified in our state's constitution by the people of New York. Ensuring that buildings meet emission limits set by Local Law 97, rather than complying with the law through other measures, is crucial. A few other recommendations we have for New York City are to ensure that with Local Law 97, there's collaboration with union-linked direct entry programs and apprentices, and the funding of local targeted outreach in different languages to increase awareness and program enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Shiv Soin.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairs De La Rosa, Sanchez, Gennaro, and members of the committee present for today's hearing. My name is Shiv Soin, and I'm the Executive Director of Triage, an organization of high school and college students across New York City fighting for climate justice. Local Law 97 is one of the most important laws the Council has passed in the fight against climate change. With 70% of our pollution being emitted from buildings, the Council took the correct and courageous step to pass the law. However, I speak to this committee today because I am concerned about the Adams administration's intentions about enforcing Local Law 97, as well as their inability to strongly commit to the goals of the law itself. That makes this body even more important in making sure Local Law 97 is implemented and enforced as intended. I'll be submitting more detailed written testimony, but for today, I want to focus on a few key aspects that the council and the administration need to do. First, the administration must ensure true enforcement and clearly outline penalties for violations by landlords. A key concern of mine and several others who have been speaking today during last hearing as well was surrounding by the good faith standard touted by the administration officials. Allowing a standard like this will incentivize landlords to skirt regulations, which will be detrimental to the impact of Local Law 97. Next, the administration must tightly limit RECs or renewable energy credits. Without strict regulations, the city's largest landlords can buy credits and avoid retrofitting their buildings. We urge the administration to limit RECs to either electricity use only or up to a maximum of 10% of buildings' pollution reduction requirement. That law needs proper regulation in this area in particular to maximize jobs and pollution cuts. Finally, by not enforcing Local Law 97 as written, we are at risk at losing tens of thousands of good paying jobs for New Yorkers everywhere. There are union leaders, workers here that are on this call today, emphasizing this in particular because the fight for climate change is directly linked to creating good, well-paying jobs for our residents, for New Yorkers everywhere. As this committee moves forward in terms of moving forward with Local Law 97, we need to do everything we can to prioritize the well-being of New Yorkers, our future, the future for our students, and for young people everywhere. Thank you so much for allowing me the chance to speak.
Thank you for your testimony. The next four registered witnesses we will call are Diane Prashad, Mark Schmid, Shrivanthi Kanikal, and Lonnie Portis. Diane Prashad, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Diane Prashad does not appear to be in attendance. We will move to Mark Schmid.
Starting time.
Hello, my name is Mark Schmid. I've lived in New York City since 1991 when I moved here to study music at Juilliard. I'm a freelance musician whose work includes playing in Broadway pit orchestras. So New York City is near and dear to my heart because it's the only place where I can pursue a career like mine. I love New York City. That is why I'm here today to testify for the implementation of Local Law 97, the world's most important municipal level climate and jobs law. New York City needs our help. As an island, New York City is especially vulnerable to disasters resulting from climate change, such as sea level rise and flooding from storms such as Superstorm Sandy. Our sustainability is directly threatened by climate change, and it is our duty to our children and to future generations to do everything we can to reduce our city's carbon emissions and fossil fuel consumption. Local Law 97 provides a framework for reducing our emissions from buildings and was passed in 2019. Doing everything we can means enforcing penalties and standards. I do not understand how Mayor Adams and his friends in the real estate lobby can be allowed to sidestep this law and play games with penalty enforcement, compliance, etc. Honestly, I can't believe that we need to have a hearing such as this one to enforce laws that have been passed. How can we expect people to have faith in a government that doesn't enforce its own laws? Having listened to all of today's hearing, I appreciate how nuanced and complicated compliance will be. But please, let's not let the building owners who can comply wiggle out of their responsibility to our city. We are in danger of letting the moneyed interests in their greed ruin our city, making it a playground for the rich. If we don't clean up our act and start getting serious about protecting the sustainability of New York, there isn't going to be a New York City in the near future. The greedy people who are opposing the implementation of Local Law 97 do not care about the future of New York City, but I do. And
Time expired.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Shrivanthi Kanikal.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chairpersons De La Rosa, Sanchez, and Chairperson Gennaro, and members of the Council. My name is Shrivanthi Kanikal, and I'm the Resiliency Planner at the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance. We are a nonprofit citywide membership network that links 11 grassroots organizations from low-income neighborhoods and communities of color in their struggle for environmental justice. NEJA, through the Climate Box for All Coalition, has been an ardent supporter of Local Law 97 and has strongly advocated for the complete and equitable implementation of the law since its introduction. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the following economic crisis, and the ongoing climate crisis, the successful implementation of Local Law 97 provides an incredible opportunity to create thousands of good green jobs, move us towards our climate goals, and directly invest in reducing harmful localized pollution levels in environmental justice communities. As Chair Sanchez and others mentioned, David Su from MIT has projected that Local Law 97 can create 140,000 good green jobs by 2030. New York City should take this opportunity to invest in successful union-linked pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship, and certification training programs to fully support the growing clean energy industry and expand access to good green jobs to workers who have experienced pandemic job losses. We've seen some success with previous programs such as Build It Back Better, the Build It Back Better program that was launched after Hurricane Sandy, and now we have to do more. The city can and should require community hiring for public building upgrades, and there should be incentives for community hiring for private infrastructure projects as well. These efforts should be tracked and monitored. Workforce development coupled with project labor agreements and community hiring will expand opportunities for traditionally underrepresented groups in the green workforce, including women, immigrants, and Black and Brown New Yorkers. We must prioritize Local Law 97 implementation to ensure that communities that have been hit the hardest by both COVID and longstanding environmental racism have access to good green jobs.
Time expired.
We must move forward with the implementation in a fair and equitable way to advance New York's climate and economic recovery goals. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we'll hear from Lonnie Portis.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chair De La Rosa, Chair Gennaro, and Chair Sanchez, and the committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm Lonnie J. Portis, the Environmental Policy and Advocacy Coordinator here at We Act for Environmental Justice. We Act, an organization based in Harlem, has been fighting environmental racism at the city, state, and federal levels for more than 30 years. I want to start by highlighting We Act's Solar Uptown Now program, where 10 solar workers established a cooperative, fulfilling their ambition to own a stake in the emerging green economy, to create job opportunities for other people of color, and ultimately to give back to their community. The development of a green workforce is extremely important to We Act, and we look forward to further working with City Council and city agencies to make the equitable implementation of Local Law 97 possible. We Act is testifying on the need for the city to use community-based solutions to develop a diverse green job sector. It's crucial that we deeply examine current trends in the renewable energy sector and identify and remove any barriers to entry. New York City should take this opportunity to invest in successful apprenticeships, and certification training programs to fully support a just transition. In order to accomplish one of the primary just transition goals, closing the diversity gap within the green jobs and renewable energy sector, the city must consider scaling and implementing community-based organization best practices, which include paying for OSHA training cards, providing and subsidizing transportation, promoting on-job training, offer holistic education and support in subjects like math, basic life skills training, resume building, financial literacy, and computer training, connecting companies directly to worker trainees, and requiring and incentivizing community hiring. A more detailed written testimony will be provided after this hearing. Thank you again, committee chairs, for allowing me to testify on this matter. And again, we look forward to working with the City Council on developing a robust just green workforce pipeline.
Lonnie, it's Jim.
Hi.
So good
How
to
you
see
doing?
you as always. You are my #1 frequent flyer when it comes to testifying at EP hearings. And I just really appreciate the great partnership of We Act and everything that we do, and particularly this. And I look forward to seeing your full testimony. So please submit that. Try not to make it as long as Pete's, but we look forward to that, Lonnie. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. I don't know if I can promise that me and Pete might have to compete with how long it is. Written testimony.
Okay.
Thank you for your testimony. The next 3 registered witnesses we'll hear from are Kawana Hull, Davon Farquharson, and Alexis Hidalgo. Kawana Hole, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Does not appear that Kawana Hole is in attendance. Next, we will hear from Alexis Hidalgo.
Starting time.
Does not appear that Alexis Hidalgo is in attendance. Next, we will hear from Devon Farquharson.
Starting time.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Devon Farquharson. I'm a resident of Harlem, living in West Harlem section for over 20 years. I've recently teamed up with WEACT as part of their solar panel installation program. The amount of information that was delivered in a 2-week period was a huge benefit to me and my peers, and for many reasons. Not only did I receive a certificate for my work, but I also learned the fundamentals on renewable energy and how much it has already and can continue to help this community. About 20 students and myself attended these classes and we are now all on the path to making the city go green. The students that attended the class came from all over the city and had the same passion to help the community benefit off of renewable energy as I did. As you know, Local Law 97 is being put in place to help prevent toxic gas emissions and fossil fuels burned all throughout the city, ultimately harming our communities. Putting this law in place will provide over 140,000 jobs in the New York City area and help us keep each other safe. I'm standing by WEACT, I'm standing by renewable energy and the green workforce pipeline that Local Law 97 will put in place. Being a New York City resident, I have seen the damage that pollution can do firsthand to our communities, and I'm ready to take a step in the right direction. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great day. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Devon, for your partnership with WEACT, for your involvement with solar, and for your advocacy on Local Law 97. It's great to see you. I don't think you've testified before the committee before, but we hope to see you many times, and we appreciate your good efforts. Thank you. We look forward to any comments that you may want to submit after the hearing, but good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience in testifying.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you. The next 4 registered witnesses that we'll call are Margaret Perkins, Georgie Page, Sarah Orleans Reed, and Danielle Manley. Margaret Perkins, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
I'm a member of 350 NYC. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Good afternoon. We thank the council members for this important hearing, which will help not only New York City agencies, but also apartment owners, residents, and climate activists understand the extent of preparation the city has been making for the last 3 years to implement Local Law 97, and in this case, with regard to the green workforce. Green workforce readiness is a crucial metric to gauge the city's overall preparedness and climate mobilization. In 2019, Urban Green Council estimated that by 2024, 20% of the large buildings, at least 10,000, would have to complete some form of retrofitting to comply with the benchmark for 2024. Commissioner Agarwal now states that only 3,500 buildings, the extreme polluters, will have to do some kind of upgrades by 2024. I don't quite understand this gap. Is the city using the same methodology as the Urban Green Council to determine the extreme polluters? The committee is familiar with the labor market analysis and projected hiring numbers of David Su, MIT. And an important comment of Dr. Su's report was that it is imperative that training starts immediately. This is 2019. If building owners and contractors wait until just before each compliance deadline to retrofit their building, the skilled labor necessary to support their projects may not exist. We are behind in producing that workforce right now. Commissioner Agarwal says that 4,000 workers trained by these 4 programs, the training programs, have entered the workforce. But Sue's estimate is that we will need another 10,000 in the next 2 years and another 100,000 by 2030.
Time
So we
expired.
have to ramp up. And I just want to finish up by saying that in this hearing, I'm struck by the fact that we didn't hear from building owners and managers. And there's a real concern that many of these stakeholders are not yet part of the Local Law 97 movement. And it's very important that they are at the table in these kind of discussions. As anecdotal evidence that I've talked to other people, a majority of building owners have a very superficial knowledge right now of what they need to do to comply with Local Law 97. So please try to bring them into these types of hearings in the future. Have I finished? My time's up.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will hear from Georgie Page.
Starting time.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you to the joint committees for holding this hearing today, and thanks to all of you for attending. My name is Georgie Page, and I am a senior organizer with 350 Brooklyn City Action Committee. We work locally to counter the global climate crisis. Our organization is engaged in the fight to protect Local Law 97, the most important piece of environmental legislation passed in this city, because it is in danger. This administration, in failing to more aggressively enforce and promote Local Law 97 and its labor and workforce programs, may actually be undermining it, and therefore undermining all of our futures. As I write this testimony, I know that there is much more I could say to elaborate on why we need to enforce Local Law 97 as if our lives depend on it, because they do. And there is much to be said on the value of training programs and resulting volumes of good green jobs that would result from this enforcement. But to be honest, I feel that it's important for some of us to step outside of our own realities for a moment and think about the urgency of these jobs, training, and even basic educational needs for the individuals that we typically refer to in aggregate. I want to talk about the time I spent tutoring adults here in New York City through a group called Literacy Partners, teaching them to read. I'm thinking of how in their spare hours per week, their few spare hours per week, these workers, many of them manual laborers, were striving for dignity, striving to live a fuller life than the one that fate had assigned them. They showed up faithfully to a donated cafeteria space in an anonymous building downtown, and they worked humbly and painstakingly with me, with my rudimentary training, to learn basic phonics. I'm talking about how to read the words cat and dog. These workers need us. So while this was an amazing literacy program, and we were all grateful for the experience, in a wealthy democracy, our workforce with their diverse needs should really not have to rely on the goodwill of a handful of volunteers to make sure they are supported and properly educated and trained.
Time expired.
We pay dearly to this city government and taxes, and so everything in this city should be world-class, but it is not. Far from it. Our workforce is looking to you to secure a broad range of opportunities and training, the solutions that will make their lives livable and maybe someday even joyful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Sarah Orleans Reed. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Orleans Reed. I am a labor researcher and a volunteer with 350 Brooklyn. Thank you to the committee chairs for holding this hearing today. This law is critically important for New York City, but our success in implementing it goes far beyond these boundaries. We can and must demonstrate how our ambitious climate law can benefit people tangibly by creating jobs and reducing local pollution and energy costs. If we do, Local Law 97 will have positive ripple impacts across the world. This means sending a strong signal now from the administration about enforcing the law's penalty structure, which gives it teeth, and limiting the use of renewable energy credits. When we talk about climate action and green jobs, we must remember that we are losing this battle at the federal level. In spite of overwhelming public support for job-creating climate measures, the federal government has not made the major investments that we need to meet our international climate commitments. This should terrify all of us. The vacuum at the federal level means that populist democratic states and cities like ours, we're on the hook. By passing Local Law 97 in 2019, New York City signaled to the world that we were up for this challenge. The Urban Green Building Council characterizes Local Law 97 as the strongest buildings emissions law anywhere in the world. While the proposed Amazon headquarters in 2019 promised 25,000 jobs, simply enforcing our existing law could create 5 to 6 times that without shelling out tax benefits to one of the world's wealthiest corporations. The city can also make sure the jobs created are good ones by investing in union-linked apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, and certification training programs. Seeing our city's workforce thrive while its pollution level reduces is critical for climate action worldwide, since our media and cultural visibility is so disproportionate. Local Law 97 has already been held up by global networks and organizations such as C40 as a model for others worldwide. Even more concretely, our commitment to implementation can change the status quo of the building profession. Earlier this year, I failed to convince my mother, who lives in Philadelphia.
Time expired.
Thank you. In conclusion, I want to say we need to be the city on the hill for the rest of the world, not the house of cards.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we'll hear from Danielle Manley. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon, committee chairs and members. My name is Danielle Manley, and I'm policy manager at Urban Green Council, a nonprofit focused on reducing the carbon footprint of the city's buildings. Thank you so much to the city council and staff today for your continued focus on Local Law 97. And we also appreciate the commitment of Commissioner Agrawala, DOB, and MOCEJ to full implementation and mobilization of the law and the city's retrofit market workforce. Today, we're sharing key research and recommendations from our work on this topic, and full details are in my written comments. So first is that Local Law 97 has an enormous potential to drive unprecedented growth in the city's green workforce. Many today have cited our retrofit market analysis, which found that if all buildings choose efficiency retrofits to meet their carbon caps, the law could drive as much as $20 billion of investments into buildings and over 140,000 jobs by 2030. These findings underscore how prioritizing building efficiency and electrification will lead to major carbon savings and tens of thousands of local jobs. And to realize that workforce potential, we recommend the following. The first is to swiftly finalize the details for the first compliance period, because the market needs certainty to plan compliance strategies, operational improvements, and capital upgrades before 2024. With advisory board input, rulemaking can start now on outstanding questions. Second is to maximize compliance through efficiency and electrification work. As a way to do this, Urban Green strongly supports a new option for owners to pay into an equitable buildings fund. This would both help to pay for upgrades in affordable housing and divert dollars to work in buildings instead of penalties. We were glad to hear the commissioner's support in the April hearing for exploring this option. And third, we need more resources and training and to jumpstart work in city-owned buildings, because this transformation is going to require that education and retraining for workers across the building trades happens for new technologies and practices. For example, Urban Green has created training for plumbers with Local Union 1 on new heat pump water heater technologies. The city should be exploring supporting qualified organizations that can develop targeted training to reach workers. And my last point is that the city can also focus on work in public buildings to lead by example, like the programs that the commissioner highlighted earlier to help scale workforce knowledge, expertise, and experience for the broader market. Thanks so much for letting me comment today at this hearing.
Thank you for your testimony. The next 4 registered witnesses we'll call on are John Pope, Bill Nowak, Stephen Sears, and Donald Baird. John Pope, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Pope, and I'm the owner and the operator of a small general contracting business here in New York City. I'm here in full support of implementing Local Law 97. We're in a climate crisis, and by all reports, we have very little time left to act to avoid the dire consequences of inaction. We've all seen the devastation of the early stages of climate change, and it sounds to me like we all agree that we need to do something about it. We saw the devastation of Sandy, we've seen the devastation of Ida, and we know the effects of fossil fuel on respiratory health here in the city. Local Law 97 moves our city to engage in the solution, not hope that someone else solves this. The implementation of Local Law 97 will create jobs across the city. Perhaps more importantly, I don't see where this takes any jobs away. There are more jobs for plumbers, electricians, carpenters, and the list goes on. Local Law 97 is a solid piece of climate legislation at the scale required to be effective, but only if it's fully implemented. Otherwise, it's just words, and we really need to get to work. As many have testified before me, we have the knowledge, technology, and skills needed to retrofit these buildings and dramatically reduce our emissions in the city. We're upgrading our clients' energy efficiency every day. We install new windows, we blow in insulation, we're sealing building envelopes. This money's not wasted. It's a good investment. Reducing the energy use straight up reduces energy costs. Retrofitting buildings for efficiency also makes them much more comfortable to be in. I don't know about everyone here, but I've lived in some pretty uncomfortable buildings since I've moved to New York City. I think the experience of opening the windows in the winter because it's too hot in my apartment may speak volumes to the need to fully implement Local Law 97. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here and for this excellent testimony before me. I'd like to thank the committees for holding this hearing.
Time
and
expired.
I'd like to say if we're really going to do something about climate change, fully implementing Local Law 97 is what it's going to look like. New York City's a leader. New York City has that can-do spirit. We can do this, and we can show the world that it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. We will next hear from Bill Nowak. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Thank you. Hello, has my time started?
Yes, it has.
Hi, my name is Bill Nowak. I'm the Executive Director of the New York Geothermal Energy Organization. New York Geo is a nonprofit organization representing geothermal heat pump installers, manufacturers, distributors, and industry stakeholders from throughout New York State and the world. I want to thank the chairs for holding this hearing, and I want to commend New York City. Local Law 97 is a strong law that directly goes to the challenge of cutting greenhouse gas emissions in order to avoid the worst impacts of climate stability. This law will create jobs on a massive scale if and only if it remains a clear and unambiguous market signal that building owners, developers, designers, contractors, and labor unions can count on. In the world of business, certainty is crucial. It drives investments, it drives planning, it drives expansion, and of most importance to this hearing, these factors drive hiring. I hear about the importance of certainty from New York Geo's members all the time. We're in a transition at this point between the mayoral administrations of de Blasio to Adams, and stakeholders in the Local Law 97 processes are watching closely. This law and the recent gas ban for new construction sent a clear message to the business community and the people of New York that the city is serious about doing its part to cut greenhouse gas emissions. It's crucial that the market signal is not watered down by rec schemes and coming rules and regulations that are too loose and encourage building owners to shirk their obligations under Local Law 97. I'm encouraged that the council is looking to ensure that this law is strongly regulated, properly funded, and well-staffed. And I did have one recommendation, which is that as the training programs are being set up and integrated, that our industry training organization, which is the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, or IGSHPA, is included in the training programs. Thank you.
Bill, thank you very much for your good testimony. I go way back with geothermal and the New York City Council. I'm trained as a geologist. I go back with John Reiner when he was at PW Grosser.
John's a good friend.
Yeah, and so we go way back on geothermal. And I think geothermal is really one of New York City's secret weapons with regard to renewable energy, and I thank you so much, and I'll make a note to my legislative director, Nabby, who's here, to make sure that Bill is included in anything we do with regard to with the jobs element and union folks who would be associated with deploying geothermal. And so Really great to see you, and it's great to see geothermal represented at this hearing. It's a real critical element, and I thank you for being in that realm and helping us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Stephen Sears. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Sears. I am the CEO of the EIFS Industry Members Association, or EMA, the organization representing the hardworking men and women comprising every facet of the exterior insulation and finish system industry. EIFS are exterior wall claddings that insulate, protect, and have beautified many buildings in New York City and across the country for more than 50 years. Our work contributes to the aesthetic and vibrant architecture of buildings, while simultaneously serving as a weapon in the war on carbon to both run your building more efficiently and reduce energy and, by extension, curtail greenhouse gas emissions. I'm here today to speak about the importance of the whole building approach and how organizations like EMA are eager and proactive about playing a role in reducing emissions through this approach. What Local Law 97 has successfully accomplished is to set requirements that improve building performance through new energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emission limits. Rather than relying on prescriptive standards, legislation like Local Law 97 enables building owners to select the best methods to meet the new requirements based on the use and needs of their particular building. EIFS are one of the most environmentally friendly products you can integrate into a building in terms of energy efficiency and emissions. A tough material sustaining high and low temperatures well, the product is used in jurisdictions across the country, including practically every neighborhood in New York City. The affiliates comprising our membership and the workers they employ have done jobs as small as 1 or 2 panels to accent a home, all the way to large projects such as the Hyatt House in Midtown, Baychester Houses in the Bronx, a major retrofit project, and Beach Green Dunes in Queens, certified by the Passive House Institute. There is no doubt that New York City will have challenges implementing the world's first building standard, but in doing so is creating a new model for building that benefits people and the planet. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we will call on Donald Baird. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Donald Baird not appearing to be in attendance. We will call upon the next 4 registered witnesses in the following order: Martha Sickles, Caleb Crawford, Shay O'Reilly, and Richard Lee. Martha Sickles, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Martha Sickles does not appear to be in attendance. Next, we will call on Caleb Crawford. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
I'd like to thank the chairs for the opportunity to testify. The American Institute of Architects New York, also known as AIA New York, is a professional organization representing nearly 6,000 of New York City's architects and related professionals. I'm testifying today on behalf of the AIA Committee on the Environment, but this may be testimony for the chapter, but the draft is still working its way up the hierarchy. I'll know in a day. Among the weak spots in the endeavor of Local Law 97 is a workforce capable of delivering high-performance buildings and electrifying everything possible. It is our belief that at all levels, we do not yet have the necessary workforce. Buildings are long-term projects. Compliance with the 2030 and 2050 goals start now. We can't just sort of wait. Right, as many people have mentioned, we have the means for building and retrofitting zero emissions, high performance buildings today, buildings capable of meeting the 2050 goals of Local Law 97. High performance construction is highly precise and requires a skilled workforce to realize. And fortunately, at best, the vast majority of our buildings, our new buildings, are actually barely complying with the status quo, which is compliance with the building codes and the energy codes, let alone meeting the demands of 2030 and 2050. So Economics 101, supply and demand. On the demand side, our members report that most clients are not requesting performance that exceeds what is required by law, which is the building codes. And for both new construction and renovations, this will not increase workforce demand, so worker supply will not follow. On the supply side, the entire building ecosystem needs to be trained and prepared. Owners, developers, building managers, contractors.
Time expired.
In architecture and engineering firms. So, and we would like to invite the council members and staffers of these committees to undertake a course in Passive House, because we're confident that a level of understanding will help produce productive policy decisions. So I encourage the council to become trained. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will call on Shay O'Reilly. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm a staff organizer at the Sierra Club, the nation's oldest and largest grassroots environmental organization, with approximately 120,000 members and supporters in New York City. We want to underscore that the economic benefits of Local Law 97 from the strength of its implementation. So if you want the most jobs, you need the strongest implementation standards. To us, this means three things. First, a full-throated and public endorsement by the administration of both the goals and the mechanisms for implementing the law. Landlords must be expected to do the right thing and penalized if they do not reduce the emissions of their buildings. As always, we would much rather see emissions reduced than polluters fined, but we know that you often must be willing to fine bad actors to get these reductions. Second, the use of RECs should be limited to at most 10% of the necessary pollution cuts and only used in making up for electric sector emissions, not on-site combustion. Finally, the council must be prepared to expand the OBEEP staffing as more and more buildings fall under the purview of the law. The city also has a role to play in maximizing the job creation benefits of the law. This should take the form of immediate investments in successful union-linked pre-apprenticeships, apprenticeships, and certification training programs. We know that union jobs mean that working families thrive. For city-owned other public buildings, it's important that the city implement project labor agreements and community hiring that ensures we are meeting the goals of hiring frontline community members into family-sustaining careers. The Build It Back program following Superstorm Sandy is a great model for the city to follow. Thank you for your attention to this, and we look forward to working with you in the future to make sure that we can address climate change and create good jobs for New York.
Thank you. Next, we will call on Richard Lee. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Richard Lee does not appear to be in attendance. We will call on our final 5 registered witnesses, our final 5 virtual registered witnesses. First will be Alex Beauchamp, second Mark Zuluaga, then Rosabelle Tavares, then David Risdell, and Marta Schaaf. Alex Beauchamp, you may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Great, thank you so much for having me and for holding this hearing. Thanks to the chairs and to all the council members in attendance. I'm Alex Beauchamp, the Northeast Region Director at Food and Water Watch. We're a national environmental group focused on fighting to move the country off fossil fuels with a big presence here in the city. As so many folks have said today, Local 97 is the single biggest thing the city, and perhaps the single biggest thing any city has done to combat climate change. With 70% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions coming from buildings, and the majority of that pollution coming from the city's largest buildings, the limits the law sets are absolutely essential to moving past our ruinous reliance on fossil fuels. And yet, preserving a livable climate is really the only one positive of the law, right? We'll also slash air pollution, we'll create good jobs, we'll save on energy costs, we'll ultimately create better and more valuable buildings throughout the city because of this groundbreaking law, which is why so many of us called it New York City's Green New Deal. All of that said, we don't get any of those gains if building owners are allowed to simply pay their way out of if building owners are allowed to simply pay instead of retrofitting their buildings. And I guess by that, I mean two things. If the fines are not stiff enough, if the Adams administration is not willing to enact tough enforcement and to fine building owners for non-compliance, many of them are going to conclude, rightly perhaps, that it's cheaper and easier for them to simply pay a nominal fine instead of making the necessary improvements. It also sends a truly terrible signal to building owners who are trying to figure out what to do in the next coming years. If we don't have a clear, consistent signal from the Adams administration that they're going to levy tough fines. Similarly, we cannot allow building owners to simply buy RECs instead of retrofitting their buildings either. As speaker after speaker after speaker today has reiterated, we need to limit REC use. I found the comments this morning by the Adams administration.
Time expired.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will call on Mark Zuluaga.
Starting time.
Thank you, chairs and council people. First time caller, I've never done this before. I am a mechanical engineer with 20 years experience analyzing building upgrades in New York City buildings. I co-chaired the New York City Mayor's Office for Sustainability 80 by 50 carbon reduction kind of pathway report in 2015. I want to sort of just throw some math and numbers into this mix. Looking back, a lot of policies to address green buildings have happened. No progress has happened. Energy use in the buildings targeted by Local Law 97 was flat from 2013 to 2019 with the best of intentions and a voluntary framework. We have been talking about versions of Local Law 97 since 2017, and nothing yet is finalized. I think this can and will be a jobs bill if it actually is implemented in a way that impacts the vast majority of buildings by 2030. Boston, we are not exceptional New Yorkers. Boston passed legislation already that impacts 73% of buildings by 2030. St. Louis, 65%. DC, more aggressive than both. The original spirit of 97 was to impact 75% of buildings by 2030, and that needs to happen for any of these job projections to be realized. The other thing is owners, real estate needs time to plan. Good paying job mean infrastructure changes, not sort of tinkering around the edges, and that just requires time. What I want to get across more than anything is 2050 seems like a long way away. Major infrastructure in buildings, boilers, windows, what have you, gets replaced once a quarter century. So all these things will be replaced once between now and 2050. If we lose out on the opportunity and don't send the market the signals to sort of align this kind of major capital investments that's happening kind of once in any building between now and 2050, we will basically cause the market to spend a lot more to get a lot less in the end. And I think that's fundamentally what is at issue with the slow walking of this legislation. We are basically saying, we're talking about how big of a tax we're going to put on folks.
Time expired.
Now, in order to get the same goals that we could realize more cost effectively today. And I'll just leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we call on Rosabel Tavares. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosibel Tavares. I'm a senior sustainability consultant with Kinetic Communities Consulting. In my role, I serve as an account manager for the New York City Accelerator, specializing in affordable housing. I'm tasked with providing assistance to buildings who are subject to Local Law 97 compliance, a program developed by the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. Serving under this role, I have become well-versed in this local law and can attest to the importance of not only preserving its integrity, but also advocate for the further fortification of this crucial legislation. Today, I want to focus on workforce development. As you've heard, the Urban Green Council projects Local Law 97 has the potential to create more than 140,000 jobs by 2030 in New York City. These are good paying jobs that are accessible to all communities and welcome people of all educational backgrounds. The workforce development through this law will expand opportunities for underrepresented New Yorkers in green industries, including, but more specifically, for communities of color. An existing model we can build on to achieve this is the Build It Back program. Launched after Hurricane Sandy hit New York City, it is a successful community hiring model the city should build upon. The community hiring program, which focused on union apprenticeship placement and job placement, created more than 13,000 direct jobs and exceeded its 20% local hiring goal. Climate justice communities are already facing the effects of climate change and are clamoring for more action. We cannot continue prioritizing the financial interests of real estate billionaires over the safety and preservation of marginalized frontline communities. Weakening Local Law 97 will continue to put these communities in danger and deprive them of access to this new pool of green-collar jobs, which allow them the opportunity to elevate themselves and their communities, especially in the light of the pandemic. I again warn against the real catastrophic cost of weakening Local Law 97 and again ask that instead we commit and start moving towards strengthening this law. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll call on David Risdell. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Thank you so much for holding this hearing. My name is David Risdell. I'm here as a New Yorker and a volunteer with 350 Brooklyn. I remember when Local 97 was passed and how excited I was and still am for the future of our city and for our green economy. And even though I've been very excited and inspired by what I've heard in this hearing, I've been concerned and confused with some of the statements by the administration. I know the debate on the details of this law, that debate is going on right now, but I urge the city to quickly come out with those specifics. This law needs early and consistent messaging from the administration on expectations for compliance, or building owners won't have the incentive to begin the work. And this message isn't consistent and clear and strong. Many of them will wait too long to embark on these retrofits, frustrating compliance with crucial deadlines and slowing the development of a green workforce. I love what Mark just said about how these buildings that were targeted from 2013 to 2019 did nothing out of volunteering. We need real penalties for people to move forward. And I'm concerned that these penalties are being watered down. I'm concerned with what I perceive as a lack of funding and staffing of entities that are focused on research development and job training. And I'm concerned that building owners will find loopholes so they can avoid making physical improvements to their buildings, which many people have said, being able to buy and use RECs as opposed to real retrofits. One example is I'm thrilled by these new Tier 4 green energy projects that are already in motion. I can't wait for all that clean, good energy to flow into New York, but this green energy shouldn't replace important building retrofits. For example, this law should incentivize the eventual elimination of fossil fuels in buildings by eliminating methane in new development. Leaks from these appliances from methane impact the health of our homes, and we have the technology to move on from methane altogether. I use eliminating methane
Time
gas as an
expired.
example of a retrofit. Well, that is my time. I just want to say that, if we don't make these changes, this law will not be the game changer that we all know that it can be, and our future will be less bright, less green, less equal than it should be. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we will call on Marta Schaaf. You may begin when indicated.
Starting time.
Hello, I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm having trouble getting my camera to work. I apologize for that, but it's probably to everyone's benefit. Thank you, Chair and attendees, for this meeting and the opportunity to speak. My name is Marta Schaaf. I'm a member of the Climate Families NYC Coalition, which is comprised of members of Sunrise Kids and Brooklyn 350 Families. We are a group that galvanizes climate activism among parents, other caregivers, and children. As parents, we feel the stakes of climate change viscerally. And as our children get older, mine is currently 10 years old, they start to ask hard questions about what the adults are doing to stop climate change. I'd like to note that I also have a doctorate in public health, and I've spent several years living in the Sahel region of West Africa, where I have already seen nightmare scenarios play out in terms of food insecurity, conflict, and drought. If any city in the world can be a climate beacon for transformative local level action, particularly in light of the upcoming evisceration of our capacity at the federal level to regulate greenhouse gases, it is New York City. What we do here will have a major impact on New Yorkers and folks all over the world. Members of our group were excited when Local Law 97 passed. Most of us worked hard to elect city councilors who would support such a law. It has the potential to create good union jobs, and as many have pointed out, these jobs will only materialize with robust implementation. It will also help to lessen the air pollution that causes significant health problems disproportionately affecting communities of color and lessen carbon emissions. However, as I noted, improvements will occur only if the law is implemented as it was written, and our group of parents is extremely concerned by signals from the mayor's office that implementing this law is not important, or even worse, that the fossil fuel and real estate industries could influence its implementation. The members of our group are all juggling multiple responsibilities, including parenting multiple children under the age of 10 and full-time jobs. We would frankly prefer to assume that once a law is
Time
passed,
expired.
its robust implementation is certain, but we know that we cannot make this assumption. Did you say time or give me a 15 seconds? The upshot is that we want to strictly limit renewable energy credits, establish aggressive requirements for efficiency upgrades, adequately fund the Office of Building Energy and Emissions Performance in NYCHA, and continue to hold off on carbon trading. As parents, we would like to provide hopeful examples to our kids to show them that the grown-ups are doing something and that there are solutions within reach. Local Law 97 is one such solution if enforcement and implementation are structured with serious penalties, aggressive goals, and no loopholes. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next registered witness we will call on is Alex Stein. You may begin when indicated.
You got to put on your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I've been sitting here all day. I'll just go over 15 seconds because it started a little late. So my name is Alexander Haydenstein. I work for a company in Las Colinas outside of Dallas, Texas called Oculus Tech, and I'm looking at the city of New York, and you guys have serious environmental protection problems. But I'm coming here with solutions, creative solutions for the 21st century, 22nd century, for the future, because this building was built in 1802 and we're still stuck in that mindset. We need to focus on what is called the metaverse. My company, we create technology where you're going to be able to live in a pod that is indistinguishable from your current reality. And as a matter of fact, when you plug into this metaverse, instead of living your traditional 72-year average lifespan, in the metaverse, you'll be able to live for 1,000 years. We're going to be able to reduce our greenhouse emissions greatly because we're going to be able to put people inside of pods. And in these pods, you think, oh, well, everybody's going to be asleep. That is true. Because of the COVID technology and the medical technology that we've gotten, we have intubation technology that people will actually be able to be, asleep for years and years for the rest of their life. And you think, oh, well, is this going to stop jobs? As a matter of fact, you're going to have a lot of jobs because you're going to have to deal with their fecal matter, you're going to have to deal with your urine, you're going to have to deal with, hooking up the machines, intubation. So this is going to help the health field. And you guys, when you talk about the future and you talk about the metaverse, right now, this military-grade tech that we're using is basically indistinguishable what we have now. So if we can release this on the population, you can go into a metaverse, you can live an incredibly great life. The sex that you have in the metaverse is indistinguishable from sex, outside. The food you eat is indistinguishable from the food you eat out here. And that's the future that we need to live. So New York, we need to really focus on having creative solutions, because we can sit here and talk about carbon, trading carbon all day long. That's not going to do anything. We need to plug into these machines, because the city that never sleeps needs to go to sleep forever. That's what I think is the best solution for this, Jim. Any questions?
Thank you for your testimony. We will now call for any registered witnesses that were not called on Zoom to please raise your hand for the Zoom host. And I will ask the Zoom host to indicate whether there are any additional witnesses waiting to be called on virtually.
No questions, Jim?
There are no
Thank you.
people who
Thank you. Alex Stein, Oculus Tech out of Las Colinas. Thank you.
It does not appear that we have any registered witnesses waiting to be called upon in Zoom. We have one. We will call on Victoria Queso. Oh. There being no additional witnesses that did not testify, we have now concluded the testimony portion of this hearing.
Thank you so much to everyone who came and testified. This is a very important issue, an issue of our times that we're dealing with right now, as we know that the climate crisis is upon us. We know the importance of Local Law 97 and the historic impacts that it could have in our city meeting our goals for the years to come. As the Civil Service and Labor Chair, I am so interested in continuing to watch as we see expansion in our workforce, opportunities for workers of color in communities of color as this law is implemented. And so I want to thank all the folks who testified today. I'll pass it over to Chair Sanchez for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Chair De La Rosa and Chair Gennaro. I just want to echo my colleagues' closing remarks. And as Chair Gennaro usually says, I will affiliate myself with your comments and look forward to more conversation on this. We have to stay vigilant on the implementation.
Thank you, Chair Gennaro.
Sure, it's been a pleasure to co-chair this hearing with oh my God, I'm still trying to recover from the last witness. You know, I mean, it threw me for a little bit of a loop, put me in a kind of like a parallel universe there for a minute. You know, Chair De La Rosa and Chair Sanchez, it's been a pleasure hearing. It's been a pleasure holding this hearing with you. I think we moved the ball down the field with regard to opening up avenues for job creation as well as overall local law 97 compliance. And it's, not just my committee, it's now, 3 committees, so the local law 97 movement grows. That's a good thing. And I do appreciate this opportunity, and it's been wonderful to chair this hearing with both of you. Thank you very much. And I thank all the witnesses, of course, and the staff that worked so hard to get us to this good day.
Thank you so much, Chair Gennaro. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.
Recording stopped.